And we are live. Welcome to the Deeper Dive, something I don't normally say and is really hard for me to do. It is Sunday, June 6th. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Rinpak. We are here to break down a two-game NBA slate. One game, the start of a series. The other, the conclusion, and it is going to be fun. But the biggest question we have heading into today, do you think the PGA should allow Jon Rahm to play his fourth round?
Do I think he should be allowed to play the fourth round? That is a very controversial topic on all sports Twitter last night. I saw what happened. I was like, I felt so bad for him. And then, I mean, there's obviously a lot of implications on why they had to suspend his play. And I just didn't know that that could still happen with everything that's going on. And I thought they were just going to ride it out. I guess PGA stuck to their protocol and they suspended him. If they stuck to protocol, I guess he doesn't have to play. But man, that is such a bummer for Jon Rahm. That's devastating. I mean, how much would he have won if he would have won a tournament? A couple million, I'm assuming.
Call it 1.5. I think it's in and around that number. Enough that that stings. That's a bad beat. That's better than any beat you get in any truck. Like any Millie beat is probably not as bad as this.
Oh yeah, he's a true professional athlete playing the actual thing, and like he was playing really well. He had an ace, right? He had a hole in one. Oh my god! Jeez.
I think he shot like 64, 65, something in that neighborhood over the past two rounds, and then that's it.
That's devastating. Playing your best golf and you're just being axed because of man. It is what it is.
It is. We also have something to pay close attention to in that first game. We do not know the status of Joel Embiid as of yet. So let's just start here before we get into any DFS conversation. Do you think Joel Embiid plays today?
I think he plays, but I think the Sixers should not play him today.
Whoa. I didn't know that. I must have missed this news. I didn't know that Rasheed Wallace is coaching some basketball. That's fun.
He is. Rasheed Wallace is back on the coaching streets again.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do here with Embiid. I am approaching the day as if he is in. And obviously, we're going to get this news probably on Live Before Lock. Make sure you're watching Live Before Lock from noon till 1:30, noon to 1, something in that neighborhood. They're going to be live for a while. That'll be Eitan and Eric. Yeah, Eric. Is it Eitan and Eric or is it Eitan and EMAC? I mean, either way, that answer is right. Eitan and Eric. Either way, it's Eric, but we don't call EMAC Eric very often. I think he plays. I just don't think he should play. I don't really feel like it's worth the risk. I would want to hold him out until you drop a game. I know Laffy and I talked about that a little bit on the strategy show throughout the week. How excited are you for Dallas and Los Angeles? Game 7. Will a home team win a game in this series?
Oh, yeah, two best words in NBA is Game 7, or two best words in sports is Game 7. How could you not be excited for Kawhi versus Luka? It was absolutely sensational how Kawhi Leonard was playing in down the stretch. The last, the fourth quarter, he was a dominant force on the end. It was his game, and we were just all watching it. There was nothing that else could be done. Oh, man, there was 3 different step-back jumpers that he hit. It was just straight killer mode. I was full-on Kawhi erection mode. I was like, this is absolutely sensational basketball. It was really I was in awe down that stretch. 45 points.
It's crazy.
17 of 25 from the field. And for a wing player like that, that is unheard of.
When he starts being able to get to his exact spot, it feels so automatic. Everything feels tightly compact. Motion is clean, and he just looks, generally speaking, unstoppable. And yet there's a guy on the opposite side of that floor that has that same sort of ability to transcend the game. Who's your pick? Clippers, 6.5-point favorites for today. Who wins game 7?
Yeah, Clippers are winning game 7. I still think the Clippers get out of the West. I think the Clippers, super fan producer, Clippers fan, Jordan Klein is a big Clippers fan, and he's going to be sweating out game 7. I'm rooting for him, and I hope the Clippers come out of the West. So I do have them taking tonight's game 7, or this afternoon's game 7.
Well, I don't want Jordan to have nice things, so go Mavs. But seriously, I think it's way more interesting for the NBA if Dallas wins this game.
Yeah,
if Dallas wins this game, are Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on the Clippers next year?
Yeah, we had this conversation 2 weeks ago, and I was like, yes, if they lose in the first round, I think there is about like a 10 to 15% chance they don't come back. So together, and then now I do think they'll win, and they will be on the team together. Like I said, they're an elite tandem. It doesn't get much better than Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, a duo like that. They're probably a top 1, top 2, top 3 tandem when the whole league is healthy.
Yeah.
So you just don't want to. You want to take your chances anytime you can have that type of duo.
You can make a case that the number 1 duo already went home. Maybe we could send home the number 2, both of them coming out of Los Angeles. Who knows? I'm excited to watch it. That's for sure. And shout out to T.O. Deck with the super chat. It says Rise and Grind, which right behind me. I don't know if we can see it. You can see it. I can see it on my preview screen. So thanks as always, fellas, for all your content. Split the Fanduel 100K 27 ways for 6K. Thanks to you guys and your team. Some loonies for you guys since the government gets none. I love it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I love getting $20 Canadian. I assume that's like 14 cents in US dollars, but I don't really know the conversion rate. All righty, here we go. 483 viewers, 86 likes. Now is the time that I will do my normal spiel. Please hit the like button. It helps us out a ton. You guys know how good I feel when the likes go up, and I want to be responsible for that. I want to give no opportunity for the Live Before Lock crew to pick up any of those likes. Let's get them all in right now. We're going up until noon. The Live Before Lock crew is coming in right after us, and we are sponsored by No House Advantage today. We'll touch on a couple No House Advantage props as we get moving. But first, I think it's time to kick it off with the Atlanta Hawks. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All righty. We've got the Hawks, 3-point dogs in Philly, 220 total. And we've got 2 guys on FanDuel picking up the bulk of the ownership from the Hawks. That would be Trae Young and Clint Capella. Neither one of those things surprise me. On DraftKings, it's a bit flatter. DeAndre Hunter, Trae Young, Gallo, John Collins, and Capella, all in the 30% ownership range. Pretty comparable, clear across the board. Who stands out most to you from the Hawks for today?
On the Hawks side of things, it is interesting. Obviously, this game has the higher total by 10 points. It's a 2-game slate. And this game's a game 1, that one being a game 7, a lot of different implications that are on the line. The Hawks side of things, obviously, Trae Young is going to be appealing. He's their lead offensive dog. I like him on DraftKings where you get that 3-point bonus, $9,200. As crazy as it sounds, the opportunity cost of Trae Young is not playing an $8,300 Ben Simmons, which I like a lot more than Trae. Trae in this matchup early in the year, I believe had one. He never went above 50 points. Only played 2 games. He played 1 game above 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. He didn't play a single game above 30 minutes against this Philly team in the regular season. So it's tough to look at the regular season standpoint of things. And obviously if Embiid doesn't play, it changes a lot of things up on the defensive end for Philly and the rim protection end of things. I'm going to be kind of under the field on Trae Young on FanDuel. It's coming in a significant amount of ownership. I would rather spend that salary allocation to guys like Kawhi Leonard, spending up for a guy like Luka Doncic. That just seems more appealing in a game 7 situation than a game 1 Trae Young.
It's tricky for me for Trae because I think this matchup does that change at all if Embiid is ruled out? How much does that change your interest in Trae Young? Obviously, that should be a benefit to him, at least from an offensive perspective.
Yeah, I'll like him a little. Somewhat more. At what line? I'm not sure. Even if we get news Embiid is some sort of limitation, I'll still have a little bit more interest than I do now. Right now, with that FanDuel ownership, man, it's significant on 2-game slate where there are guys who are priced cheaper than him, like Ben Simmons can outscore him. So outright, and then you're going to miss out on a Game 7 Luka. I know Luka didn't do much in the second half when he saw lots of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So on FanDuel, where you roster too, it makes sense why that ownership is coming in at that. I'm just trying to make a stand on these 2 game slates where I can kind of zig when the field is zagging and vice versa.
Yeah, on FanDuel at point guard, you basically have Luka, Trey, Ben Simmons, obviously 3 elite spend up options. You've got Reggie Jackson, who's been playing a ton of minutes for the Clippers in this mid tier at 5,400. And then your best bet after that is probably George Hill, I guess, at the flat minimum. So by default, Trae Young's just going to be picking up ownership. Let's look at it like this. Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Ben Simmons, the 3 quote unquote pay up options at point guard on FanDuel. Rank them.
Simmons, Luka, and Trae. I am, okay. And the Simmons thing can change. I like Simmons already. I will like him a lot more if we get no Embiid. I already like Simmons in this situation for him, and I think he's going to have to go offensively. Him and Tobias need to lead the show. So, yeah, Simmons, I think I'll take my chances saving $400, and I think you can those $400 can do a little bit of help on this 2 game slate on FanDuel, especially.
Anybody else that stands out to you that you want to get to either significantly more than the field on the Hawks, or anybody that you're looking at that you think is a bit overowned?
Okay, on FanDuel, I will naturally have to be above the field on Capella if we get no Embiid. The nature of the slate there just forces you to go to guys like Capella. I can't go. It's going to be tough to go to Onyeka Okongwu on this team, but the guys who are going to play center in this 2 game slate, Capella, Embiid is obviously a question of Boban, Dwight Howard, Dwight Powell, Zubac, and that's it. I don't think anyone else is going to touch the floor. Maybe Okongwu touches the floor in this series a little bit if Embiid plays, but I'll have to be above the field on Capella if we get no Embiid, just because the risk with Boban being played off the floor is there. And if there's no Embiid, I will have to play Dwight Howard, just kind of leaving my options just with 2. So naturally, I'll be above the field on Capella over there on FanDuel. On the small forward position, I think DeAndre Hunter is an okay option. Obviously, pure tournament play with him. And I don't know how to expect John Collins' rotation in this series. Obviously, his minutes went 31, 29, and 35 the last 3 times against the Knicks. But in a Philly matchup, did not play all that great in the regular season against Philly. Never played above 30 minutes. And I don't know what Nick McMillan's going to do with Collins. Do you have any, prediction on what that Collins rotation looks like? He's a power forward with the roster too. So I have a little interest, but it's a lot of the field really likes him based off the ownership projections.
I feel like Embiid being out really benefits Collins because you don't have to really worry about him getting bludgeoned in the post. Like he's an offensive player. His defense is pretty well set as not very good. And if Joel Embiid is not out there, that's just one less thing that he has to do. He's able to hide his weaknesses a little bit more. So I think that he can thrive if Embiid is out. And that's not to say that he can't thrive if Embiid is in. He's 5,900 on DraftKings, 6,500 on FanDuel. He is one of the more owned options. Power forward is interesting, I guess, at least from a FanDuel perspective. You've got Tobias Harris. You've obviously got John Collins. We've got the ghost of Kristaps Porzingis, whatever he is at this point. And then you're hoping to get lucky with Marcus Morris or Maxey or Willie Cauley-Stein on FanDuel, perhaps at power forward. I think that Collins is basically properly owned right now, but I do think he benefits significantly if Joel Embiid is not on the floor.
Yeah, and it's really tough for me to see that Porzingis priced cheaper than Collins over there. And man, it's just that Porzingis, it's clearly obvious that Luka and Porzingis, they just don't get along. And I mean, obviously, there has been some dust-ups in the locker room between them, according to Mark Cuban, over the past few months. And Porzingis has been said, Carlisle doesn't draw up plays for me. So the fit for Porzingis, I thought it was going to be great with Luka. It looked great for a lot of last year. And since he's come back from the injury in the playoffs specifically, man, Porzingis, if was someone fit, if the fit was there, I would love Porzingis today. And I still do, just because of the price tag. And there's a chance he plays mid 30s minutes in a game 7 situation. So I just prefer him to Collins outright. But
okay,
that's how I feel about Porzingis. But on the FanDuel slate, the Atlanta side of things, like you said, everyone seems appropriately owned. The field is doing an all right job. I mean, obviously, if the Embiid news will shift a lot of ownership in a hurry. Gallinari coming at $4,500. He's a nice $300 pivot off of DeAndre Hunter. So
Yeah.
that's not bad.
Gallo at 4,500, Kevin Huerter at 4,100, both basically the same ownership on Fanduel and very, very different on DraftKings, where we have Kevin Huerter at 19%, Gallo at 30%. Can Kevin Huerter be a bit of a sneaky play here, shooting against Philly? They've had some trouble against guards in the past. Can Kevin Huerter be a sneaky paydown option today?
Yeah, I think so. I think on a 2-game slate on FanDuel where you want to just get a tad different and it's not all that cute, it's probably going to a guy like Kevin Huerter. He's priced around the Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brunson, Terrence Mann, and a saving off of Seth Curry price tag. So Kevin Huerter on a 2-game slate, when anyone is getting somewhere in the teens of minutes of run and rotational run, they're kind of automatically, you need to have them have consideration. In 20 minutes, can Huerter put up 20 fantasy points on a 2-game slate? That might be more than enough for you to be, all right, this lineup is different enough and has upside already.
Yep. He played 20 minutes in the final game against the Knicks, 25 in the game previous to that. I do think he might fit this series a little bit more than he did in the Knicks series. So I am anxious to see where he can end up. And if he continues to maintain low ownership, he strikes me as the type of guy that looks like an interesting GPP play. Is there anybody else from Atlanta, whether that's FanDuel or DraftKings, that you think we're missing?
Yeah, I think Bogdanovich, if you're not playing Trae Young, I think Bogdanovich in your lineup makes a lot of sense. I think Bogdanovich playing mid to high 30s of minutes. The minutes are there. I like the shot volume. I think the shot volume will be higher in the Phillies series. I think there's a way for him to take 16, 17 shot attempts. And he's a very, very good offensive player. I do think that rebound peripherals in the next series are a bit higher, but I do think that shot volume should go up. And he obviously is a pretty solid 3-point shooter, in my opinion. You would like him to get to the line more often. That's just not part of Bogdanovich's game. But I like the minutes and the price tag on both places. It makes a lot of sense for him.
All right, let's slide on over to Philly now, where I guess we're going to have to play the hypothetical game. Do you have Embiid in all of your assumptions right now?
I just want that news so I can make my decision. And now, if Embiid were to play, is he good? Oh,
you're good. Or not.
He's an elite tournament option, so I'm not sure if what the limit's going to look like and what's going to happen with Embiid.
We have him projected for 20% ownership on FanDuel right now, 14 on DraftKings. Can we even pay attention to those numbers? Like, is he the most like what? I don't think there's even a mechanism to try to figure out what we think Joel Embiid. If we find out that he is in, all bets are off. The problem for this particular slate, if Joel Embiid is in, is that he kind of has to get owned, and like not insignificantly, because there aren't really center options, particularly on FanDuel. If you don't want to get to Embiid, your other option is Capella. And then after that, you're just kind of saying like, I'm going to punt center.
Yeah. And I really hope if they're playing Embiid, I think it'll be a minutes monitoring situation to see how he feels, but I hope he's all systems go. And I think if Embiid plays, he's a phenomenal player on this slate. I think Embiid could easily be the highest scoring player on the slate. And I think we'll get him at an ownership, lower ownership than we usually would if Embiid were healthy on a 2-game slate. So it'll be interesting to see what the field does with him if he were to play. And I think naturally, if he's going to play, I'll be well above the field just to take my chances on a healthy Embiid.
We're seeing the Philly side of this game relatively muted in ownership, at least from a DraftKings perspective. On FanDuel, because of having to roster 2 guys at every position, your studs are naturally just going to pull a little bit higher. Ben Simmons into the 40s, Tobias Harris just short of 40, Seth Curry in the mid 30s. But we've got Tobias Harris at 8,500 on DraftKings today, projected for 22% ownership. Whether Joel Embiid is in or not, that looks really nice from an ownership perspective in a GPP. What are you looking at for Harris, or are you preferring to go a different direction, more pay down stuff, the Danny Greens, the Seth Currys, the Tyrese Maxeys of the world?
Yeah, so Tobias Harris coming in, $8,500 on DraftKings, Fanduel a price tag of $8,800. If Embiid is in, I'll be a little under the field, but if Embiid is out, I'm going to be very excited to play Tobias Harris. I think he's a solid play already, but just in terms of ownership and just trying to get away from a little bit, if Embiid were to be in, I'll be a little under the field, out well above, and I think that'll be the general public perspective as well.
What are your thoughts on the sort of very similar? Oh, hold on. Kyle Newbeck with the tweet. Doc Rivers said the Sixers have prepared for both outcomes in the shoot-arounds and practices leading into today. No new news. So anyway, I just saw that tweet pop up now. I figured I saw Joel Embiid's name and just started reading, but it has no legitimate information in it. How are you handling the Danny Green, Seth Curry, George Hill, all of these wing guys? Obviously, Seth Curry and Danny Green are the guys that are going to get 30 minutes pretty much barring anything other than foul trouble and injury. Do any of these guys stand out to you?
Not sure about standing out. If you follow last guy in and you're in a lineup, if it's Seth Curry, like him on DraftKings 3-point bonus, Fanduel you're rostering too. Prefer him to Danny Green. Danny Green, 5K on Fanduel. You would like him to rack up those peripheral stocks where Danny Green's scoring will be a lot more beneficial on Fanduel. So Curry on DraftKings and Green on Fanduel for me, if I were to pick and choose. They're fine as last guys in. By no means a priority. We know what their range of outcomes can be like. So if there's no Embiid, I really like Curry. I think that's a huge boost for Curry if no Embiid. He's an okay play if Embiid is in.
If Joel Embiid sits, what does the Philadelphia 76ers starting lineup look like? Clearly, Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons are going to be in there. I assume it's Curry and Green. Do they go to Mike Scott? Do they go back to Matisse Thybulle in the starting lineup? Is it just Dwight Howard right out of the gate because of Clint Capella? What's your expectation if we don't get Embiid?
I would like for Doc Rivers to start Dwight Howard. He just hasn't done it. I think he likes Dwight Howard playing in that second unit and then getting sprinkled in guys sharing the court with Harris and Simmons later on in the rotations as he closes out. I think he usually closes out the second quarter when he's coming off the bench at times. But I would like them to do Howard. I'm not sure. I think he's just going to do either Scott or Thybulle like he's done all regular season long. If Howard starts, I got to have a lot of interest in Dwight Howard at that point. Makes for a very sensational value option.
I do think that this is a decent spot to start Dwight Howard, given the fact that it's Clint Capella. There's no stretch element there. It would make a lot more sense. But at the same time, and I mentioned this whenever the last game was where they started Thybulle, like, I don't think that people realize it because of his style of play. Ben Simmons is a center. Like his body is that of a number 5 on the floor, generally speaking. We just don't think about it because he can dribble and pass and do all of those other things. But we're talking about a guy that's 6'11" and 250 pounds or 240 pounds, whatever it is. So I don't think that it's much of an issue if he has to be the quote unquote 5 to play this game if they go to someone like Thybulle. But this feels like a spot where Howard is just a more natural starting option.
Yeah. Eddie, will you be shocked if they put Furkan in the starting lineup?
No, not at all. Yeah. That 5th spot can literally go in any direction, and I think that it's pretty reasonable because it's so much more matchup based than anything else.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I think Thybulle would make the most sense outside of Howard because of the wing of Bogdanovic to guard right off the bat. But I'm not sure if they save Thybulle for the Gallinari matchup in the second unit potentially. So it'll be interesting to see what that starting lineup is and if Embiid is in or if Embiid is out. Really going to be the dictator of the slate.
You mentioned Thybulle. George Hill, Maxey, Korkmaz, all these guys are around the 8 to 15% range. Who's the guy that's most likely to pop out of that group of excess Sixers?
Most likely to pop. It looks like Tyrese Maxey, when he's on the court, he's looking to shoot the ball. I mean, if you look at his shot attempts, the last 2 games, obviously Embiid went down in later half of game 4. Early part of game 4. Last 2 games, 6 to 12, 6 to 14. Now, I don't expect that to sustain. I think the 7-8 range seems a lot more realistic for him. But I would take that shot volume any day over George Hill. I know that you're playing a little bit more for Tyrese Maxey, but George Hill is on the court being more of a facilitator, just trying to do the right pass, the right screen pass at the right time, not looking to get a bucket like Tyrese Maxey is. And in 2 game slates, you'll take a scoring dependent guy like Maxey to potentially get you there. And you like that shot volume at that price tag. I'll take my chances with Maxey over George Hill.
Any further thoughts for the Sixers?
I do think the Sixers can still win the series with a limited Embiid. They're a pretty solid team. That's about it. I would like them to potentially make sure Embiid is healthy. Like you said, play Embiid until they lose a game. That makes a lot of sense. But honestly, Ben Simmons is a phenomenal play on DraftKings, $8,300, where you could get that triple-double bonus for him. He really stands out to me. But other than that, I think we touched on almost every player who we expect to touch the court today on this.
Absolutely. Well, let's close this one out with this then. Favorite Hawk and favorite Sixer for today?
Simmons, DraftKings, Hawk, Capella on Fanduel. And then I guess another okay option. I think Trae Young on DraftKings is fine for another Hawk on Fanduel. Favorite Sixer being, as weird as it sounds, it might have to be Tobias Harris.
I like it. I like it a lot. 908 viewers for north of 100 likes. I have to change. There we go. 165 likes. It was scrunched up, so I was just getting one ... So I had no idea. Hit that thumbs up. Let's get north of 200. It'd be perfect to see. And if you're looking to sign up at awesemo.com, you are in luck. Use the promo code NBA Deeper Dive. That's one big word, NBA Deeper Dive. You can get 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All caps, all one word, or go to awesemo.com/promos. Is that what it is?
It is. I got to make sure that it's up on there. It might be just a show only promo code where
okay,
I'd have to I might need to be tuning in. It's for a special promotion for listeners and viewers of the show.
Much obliged on that one. Okay, so just type it in then, folks. NBA Deeper Dive in all caps, 15% off your first week. And then shout out to No House Advantage, the presenting sponsor of this show. Whether it's NBA contest you're looking for, MLB, NFL, which is coming up very quickly. Make sure you're checking out all of Lofty's NFL videos that have been posted so far. The NFL content is going to be coming out fast and furious soon enough. PGA, maybe you can get a John Rahm under at this rate. You could use the promo code Awesemo when signing up, get a $20 first match deposit bonus. We're not worried about fantasy points in this situation. We are worried about player props. They've got a 5K guaranteed 2K to first contest going today. There's 121 of 300 entries in right now, so only 40% full. And you're looking to take a player prop and select whether that player is going to go over or under that mark, whether that's points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers made, points plus rebounds plus assists, all sorts of different stuff. And that might sound daunting at first, but you are in luck. If you go to awesemo.com, you can get access to our No House Advantage projections for free, no matter what. You don't even have to have a sub to awesemo.com. You can just get that information for free. If that doesn't sound good enough, we'll go even further than that. You can get optimal lineups already created for No House Advantage based off of the projections that we have on the site that we're using for everything else. Built by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, fine-tuned by the rest of the pros here on staff. It's a great product. It's costing you absolutely nothing, and you get free money when you sign up. I can't really see a reason why you wouldn't want to do that. Great place to build your bankroll. Maybe you'll find a little bit of overlay, makes winning a contest even easier. I mean, if you pop first to this one, that's $2K in the account. That's not too shabby, and you only have to beat out at maximum 299 other entries. That's a little bit different than some of the bigger contests you're getting into on some of the other sites. So if you're looking to start out, if you're looking to just build up a little bit more, or just get a taste of what we have to offer at awesemo.com, I think No House Advantage is the perfect way to do it. Man, I'm pretty happy about that promo.
We got some interesting news. DeAndre Hunter is now a game time decision, and that is kind of important if he doesn't play because he's been getting significant rotation run. Immediate benefit, I believe, goes to Gallinari and Kevin Huerter. I do think those minutes get split. I don't think maybe Solomon Hill re-enters the rotation. But just keep that in mind. If Hunter were to be out, I do think those are the three guys those minutes get sprinkled around to, and maybe Collins potentially gets a few extra minutes from him as well. Or maybe Tony Snell enters the rotation, potentially back again. So a lot of things can move around for that Hunter potential game time decision.
Yeah, so Hunter, as of last night's injury report, was listed as questionable. So this one isn't. I would be a lot more nervous if this sort of distinction was coming out and he was not listed as questionable. I'm not too nervous about it now. I guess I probably should be. But yeah, look, we'll have that information. Joel Embiid, DeAndre Hunter, that information is going to come out on Live Before Lock. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned on this link. You don't have to go anywhere. NBA Live Before Lock will be coming up at noon. Can't beat it. And now we're on to the big one for today. Dallas Mavericks, Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers 6.5 point favorites, 210 total. And we have a series. We have a game 7, and all 6 games have been won by the road team so far. This will be a staggering collapse for the Clippers if they lose 4 home games in a first round series and get sent home. Something is going to happen. Steve Ballmer is going to use some of that fortune he's got to put one of these dudes down, if I had to guess. It's going to be a wild one. I can't wait to watch it. Let's start on the Dallas side, and let's just get that out of the way now, because we've got Luka is the legitimate pay-up option today. He's the only 5-figure guy. Nope, Kawhi is on Fanduel. He's not on Draftkings. What do you want to do with Luka Doncic today? 11,200 on Fanduel, 11,100 on Draftkings, and fixing to play, 44 minutes today if he has to. It's going to be kind of crazy if it's close.
Yeah, Luka's going to have to play 45 plus minutes and then some. But the way they guarded him in the second half was pretty impressive. He did a lot of his damage, I want to say, in the last 120 seconds. Yes, it's part of a game, and the way the game was kind of out of hand at that point. He hit he hit an open 3, got to the line and got to the layup. So I'm not super excited for Luka, but obviously I'm gonna have to roster him at that price tag. I don't want to miss out on a Luka Doncic in a game 7. I think I'll be a tad under the field, and I think I'm going to prioritize the Clippers side of things in this matchup, spend that salary mainly on the Clippers side of things, then the Mavs side of things. Luka being 11-1. Is there enough value to roster both Luka and Kawhi? It gets really dark really fast. You're going to need potentially Embiid to sit out, and you're going to have to run a Boban Howard center utility lineup potentially. But Luka, if he's going to play 45 plus minutes, we saw that ceiling performance of, was it 90 something on game 5 or it was pretty sensational what he did that a couple games ago. And I still think I'm going to be a little bit under the field on Luka. I just think that we're going to see a lot more Kawhi and Paul George on him rather than Marcus Morris and Batum, and go from there, because no one else is really beating them. Tim Hardaway Jr. was getting hot early in this series, but Kristaps Porzingis is just a ghost, like you said. So I'm going to be a little bit under Luka. Maybe that's a little bold of me to do, but I don't think it's I think it's a fine option to go to, because I'm going to be saving to go to a guy like Kawhi Leonard, who has been very, very good in his own right and can definitely outscore Luka Doncic in this type of situation. And that's how I kind of jump ownership lineups and take my chances there. That's how I feel about the Luka Doncic situation.
I think you have to get to him because the raw point ceiling is so high. The minutes are so high. And it's weird. You don't normally see a scenario like this on a 2-game slate where Mavs Clippers has a point total 10 points lower than Hawks Sixers. But I think it's pretty clear that the Dallas and Clippers side have to pick up a little bit more ownership to the main guys, because the minute ceiling on the key players for this game is significantly higher than the minute ceiling is for Hawks Sixers.
I completely agree with you. And minutes are pretty much everything when you can solidify. We feel confident in Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Nick Batum, hell, even Reggie Jackson, all in line to play 40 plus minutes. And we see we saw the reinsertion of Luke Kennard in the rotation. Yeah. And Zubac played barely any minutes in the second half. So, and Rondo could also close if there's foul trouble. So those are the 8 guys I feel confident in seeing the floor. I do think Luke Kennard will get that rotation run again. He didn't look terrible. He missed some easy layups, and I think Ty Lue's going to play him again potentially. On the Mavs side of things, Luka, you feel confident in. I'm more confident on the Clippers side of things than the Maverick side of things because of that front court rotation of that roulette of Cauley-Stein, Kleber, and Boban and Dwight Powell. It's kind of a rotation. It's tough to pinpoint what Carlisle is doing besides Boban starting the respective halves. So I feel confident in Hardaway Jr., Finney Smith, and Luka, and Josh Richardson and Brunson coming off the bench. I don't know how many minutes they get in this Game 7 situation. So that's who I feel the most confident in. And I am very not sure of what's going to happen with Cauley-Stein, Powell, and Boban's minutes and Kleber.
Ooh, Brockstar, is that a real statement? Julio Jones to the Titans.
Wow. Him and AJ Brown
for a second round pick.
That is a very interesting trio. How many touchdowns is Derrick Henry going to steal from Julio? And it's going to be a really tilting affair all the way. They obviously lost Jonnu Smith, and oh man, I mean, that's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, I don't think Corey Davis is there anymore. So the upgrade of Corey Davis to Julio Jones is
just a little.
It's just Julio Jones is the greatest wide receiver, you can argue, of this past decade. And wow, I'm pretty shocked. I thought he was going to end up somewhere else. I thought they were not. I guess they were going to trade him to the AFC and not to the NFC. That's what the Falcons were saying. So
wild stuff. So I've got a hot take. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
Not about Julio Jones. I don't care at all where he ends up. I'll forget that he's on the Titans in a week. I think Kristaps Porzingis has a big game today.
You know what? I think so too. Because I think the focus is going to be on Luka, and their second best offensive player is Kristaps Porzingis. Contrary to what we've seen in the series, it's Porzingis. And God, is he due for a good game? I mean, I like that price tag on Fanduel. I like it on Draftkings. If you're playing that showdown, I like taking some chances there. Is there a reason why you think they don't play more Porzingis at the 5 in this situation? I feel like it would work, right?
I mean, they should. Look. The beginning of this answer is yes, they should. He should play almost exclusively at the 5. I wouldn't that should just be what's happening. The problem is they just don't seem to integrate him into the offense in the way that you would expect him to. And him getting post touches is not the answer. He's a terrible post scorer. It's rare. Every possession that you give Dallas with Kristaps Porzingis in the post, unless it is off of a switch onto a legit smaller, obviously every guy that's on him other than Boban is a much smaller guy than Kristaps Porzingis. Unless he gets a switch onto him where you're getting Terrence Mann or Reggie Jackson or something, I don't want him getting post touches. You need to get him out on the floor a little bit more and involved in the offense. He has been, I'm pulling up just the playoff numbers so far. He's played 190 minutes in the playoffs, 17% usage rate, 0.81 Fanduel points per minute, basically no assists. He's not involved in the offensive rebounding. He's barely involved in the defensive rebounding. He's shooting 36% from 3. And I think that's a little bit of interesting information. If you can get him a couple additional looks from 3, he's still a really good shooter. Even though we think he's not playing well and 17% usage is not enough, he's still shooting 36% from 3. That's essentially average. A hot shooting day out of Porzingis will change the scope of this team and really stretch the floor and open the floor for more penetration for Luka. I think they are going to try to lean on Porzingis, not necessarily lean on him, but I think he is the difference maker that keeps Dallas in this.
Yeah, I would love to see that happen. Porzingis is, I think, an elite offensive player.
Yeah.
And minutes, there should be no sort of minutes limit for him. So that's how I feel. I like taking some chances on him when he's burned everyone pretty much this whole series, albeit one game. So, yeah, I like taking some chances on Porzingis. I have a question for you. If these guys get bounced, do Luka and Porzingis return? I mean, Luka returns. Does Porzingis return as on the Mavs next year?
I think he has to. I don't really know what could be out there in order to not have him here.
Send him to the Warriors, and that'll be fun. I don't think they would. I don't think they would trade him within the conference, but yeah.
Well, it depends who's coming back, obviously. If they thought they were winning the trade, they would. But I have a feeling that they wouldn't want Andrew Wiggins back. And that's probably what would have to happen. I'm trying to pull it up now to see what Kristaps Porzingis scored in post touches this year on a per possession basis. Because I know that it's bad, but I want to double check to make sure that it's as bad as I remember it being. For the rest of Dallas, is there anybody that you think can be a sneaky play? Because there are some guys that aren't like Dwight Powell picking up no ownership, Maxey picking up no ownership, Jalen Brunson, Josh Richardson picking up no ownership. Do you see any of those guys with potential sneaky days?
Potentially Jalen Brunson. There's a way where I think they might need an extra guy who can handle the ball on the court with Luka if Luka's getting a lot of attention, and potentially Brunson to create offense for them. That $3,900 price tag on Fanduel could work out. That's really about it. It could get obviously fluky foul trouble could happen on Luka, and you might get a lot more Brunson minutes. That's one way to get there. He could also share the court with Luka on the court with Hardaway or even Finney Smith getting some sort of foul trouble. They might go super small there, but that's the other guy I'd look at. I'd take my chances on a ball handler coming off the bench rather than Josh Richardson. But that center rotation, I just think there's a pathway. They all could be bad, and it's really tough to pinpoint. I do think one can be really good, but I don't know what Carlisle is going to end up doing. And Boban's been pretty solid. I mean, that price tag is $3,900 on FanDuel. If you want to spend down there and miss out on a potential Embiid or Capella or even Howard if Embiid is out. So it's going to be interesting to see what that Boban ownership is like. He's been fine. Boban's obviously performed at better fantasy production in his career than this, but he had a very strong start to the second half last time out. I do think the minutes cap is around 20 minutes. I don't see him playing more than 20 minutes. Can Boban put up 30 and 20? Yes, but it's going to be a super strong fantasy game from him. But there's a pathway he gets played off the court. They put him on an island over and over again, and we see Dwight Powell being back there, or Willie Cauley-Stein. So it's tough. Maxi Kleber's minutes, I do think, is kind of injury related. I do think that Achilles is bothering some, where maybe does Kleber give it a full go and he's ready to go? Could happen. So that front court center rotation is literally four guys, and it's really tough.
By the way, I got the data now. On post-ups, Kristaps Porzingis, 0.98 points per possession for the Mavs when Kristaps Porzingis is involved in a post-up. 1.12 points per possession as the pick and roll man. Maybe we see a little bit more Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis pick and roll if you can pull it off today. Try to get him in a little bit more of a better situation. In isolation, Porzingis this year, 0.74 points per possession. Absolutely atrocious. Do not get Kristaps Porzingis into isolation because that is not going to be a great possession for the Dallas Mavericks. Are you ready to close this out with the Clippers?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. One last call. We've got about a little over 1,100 people in here, 237 likes. I think that we should shoot for 300 right now. 63 more likes. Get us to 300. We'll give the guys on the Live Before Lock show a little bit of a boost as we're getting there. So hit that thumbs up if you can. We've got Kawhi Leonard. We've got Paul George, and I'm going to start right here. Who do you prefer between the two stars for the Clippers?
It's Kawhi Leonard. There's going to be a lot of point Kawhi and bringing up the ball. There's a good chance Kawhi Leonard outscores Paul George by 20 points. And now, do we see? I just think they're going to play 45 plus minutes, barring any foul trouble, and there's a good pathway for both of them to be both necessary in your lineups. That's how strong they are of plays, in my opinion. I really like taking my chances on Kawhi. Pretty much straightforward. I think Kawhi over Paul George.
Paul George aggressively more owned than Kawhi Leonard on both sites. 56% for Paul George on FanDuel, 38% for Kawhi Leonard on FanDuel. Obviously, the positions matter a little bit more there. On DraftKings, though, $9K Paul George coming in at 51%, $9,900 Kawhi Leonard coming in at 34%. That, I agree, does make me look a little bit more towards Kawhi, particularly because Paul George has not really liked the big moments as of late. So Chalk Paul... What does Twitter look like when Chalk Paul George collapses in a Game 7 today?
Man, Paul George has played in a few Game 7s, I think, in his career. And
yes.
There was a game 7 last year against Denver where he had the very signature side off the backboard three. It's just like when they had the ultimate collapse. I think Paul George is ready for it. I think he'll be just fine. He's gotten a lot of hate for that playoff series, and I think he's had a great year all season long, and I think he'll be great today. I think Paul George is going to show out. Now, obviously, there's a salary difference between those two guys, so the ownership seems kind of appropriate. I might lower maybe the Paul George and elevate my Kawhi Leonard ownership based on that. But all of this is going to shift if we get that Embiid news and Hunter news, and where things are going to change real quick because of the nature of the 2-game slate.
Paul George has played 4 Game 7s in his career. He is 1-3 in those games, with the one win coming in 2014, beating Atlanta. He has a loss to Miami in 2013, a loss in Toronto in 2016, and then last year against the Nuggets, he was minus 15 for the game, 4 of 16 from the field, 2 of 11 from 3, and the Clippers went home. So I don't know if any of that information matters. Probably doesn't, but I do want to say it nevertheless. Where else are we going for the Clippers here? We saw Ivica Zubac kind of leave the rotation to an extent, playing significantly less minutes now. Nick Batum's been playing a ton. How are we sifting through the Terrence Mann, Rondo, Luke Kennard area? What else stands out to you from the Clippers?
It has to be Batum and Morris because they're going to get those 40-plus minutes, barring foul trouble, in my opinion. And Batum's played a reasonably well series. I don't think he's gotten enough credit. He got out of a bad situation in Charlotte and has been playing really well. And I like taking my chances on Batum. He's getting involved on the open three-pointers, facilitating at times. Yeah, I think Batum for me is a option that I'm definitely considering. And Marcus Morris is going to get those minutes. He's one of those guys who can get it going like he did. And I think it was game 5. He had a pretty solid fantasy game. And Marcus Morris is another option that you can consider because the minutes are going to be there. The rest of the minutes, I'm not sure what they're going to really look like. Can Reggie Jackson start the game off poor and Ty Lue pulls the string on him and go to Rondo? Yeah, it definitely could happen. But Reggie Jackson has played a lot better this series than you'd expect him to be playing the last couple of games. Especially, he was the reason why they were hanging in there in the first half before Kawhi took over. So I think Rondo is a sneaky tournament option if you think Reggie Jackson struggles. And Terrence Mann, if you're looking for a last man value in, I think the team really turned against him after he blew that layup and chose to pass the ball in game 5. So he kind of lost the trust of a lot of people, I think, internally there. That's why we saw Luke Kennard get minutes, I think.
Reggie Jackson in 182 minutes in this series, 22% usage with a 60% true shooting, just playing really well. And because it wouldn't be me, I must disparage Rondo. He certainly could fall into more minutes, and that is why you would want to play him. But he has not been good in this series. 120 minutes, 0.87 Fanduel points per minute, and a crisp 43% true shooting, which is about as bad as it can possibly be, and still getting 120 minutes. That is a tough thing to do. By far the lowest true shooting number for the Clippers so far this series. Yikes.
Yeah, I hope the game is close, but part of me believes there could be a blowout just the way the series was close the last couple of games. But who knows? I hope it's a thrilling game 7, and whoever wins. And on to the matchup against the Utah Jazz, well-rested Utah Jazz.
Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Nick Batum. All of these guys are owned like 30% or more, upwards of 50%. Terrence Mann, Ivica Zubac, Rajon Rondo, and Luke Kennard are all in single digits in ownership on both FanDuel and Draftkings. Who is the most likely out of those single digit guys? Again, that's Mann, Rondo, Zubac, Kennard. Who's the most likely guy to be in an optimal lineup today?
I'll take my chances on a Rondo just because we've seen him close games, play stretches of the last 15 minutes of basketball time. Like he's done that, I think, games 1 and 2 and maybe 3 of the series. I know he did that in game 3. So yeah, Rondo definitely probably the guy who I'd take my chances on being in a potential optimal.
We've got a couple super chats here to touch on. Ray Duncan asked the question: Dorian Finney-Smith, Marcus Morris, or Nick Batum at small forward on DraftKings?
Thanks for the super chat. I will take my chances with Nick Batum.
Morris, Finney, Batum. I will go to Marcus Morris in that scenario. Batum would be my second choice. Mark Morris is also the highest owned guy. So if this is more of a cash question, to me, it's Morris. In a GPP, I'd be more likely to get to Batum, I think. D. Owens 89, Rondo and Kristaps Porzingis, or Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris in a Fanduel GPP.
Rondo and Porzingis and
I believe Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris. It says RJ, so I'm assuming that's Reggie Jackson.
In tournaments, yeah, Rondo and Porzingis is going to be a lot lower owned than Reggie Jackson and Morris.
Yeah, I agree. All right, those are our two super chats. So I'm going to slide on over to our premium Slack. Do you have anything else you want to touch on for this final game, Mavs Clippers?
Yeah, keep an eye on the starting lineup. I do expect it to be the same starting lineups, but you never know. Game 7, things can change up. But yeah, it's that center front court rotation. If you somehow finds the guy who gets hot for Dallas, I think that could be a huge beneficiary to your lineup. If someone can find a way to get like a solid 8-8 and not name Boban with that ownership, if it's Power, Kleba, or Cauley Stein, I think that lineup can do some damage.
All right, we got a couple of questions in our premium Slack right now. I am trying to get those loaded. I've got a 3v3. Do you have Slack open by any chance?
I can pull it up.
Okay. I was just going to read it off to you, but since it was a 3v3, I know that that's a lot to like try to keep in your head.
I'll pull it up.
But it's Gallo, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Tobias Harris, or Paul George, DeAndre Hunter, and Maxi Kleber. Kawhi and Luka are already in the lineup. That's a lot. I know. I'm
pulling this up. I think it's going to be the not the Paul George and Hunter side. I'll take the other side because I'm a little concerned with this Hunter knee, and it being a game 1. If that knee acts up, it's game 1. He could definitely be riding the pine a lot sooner than later.
I have the Gallo, Tim Hardaway, Tobias Harris side significantly more likely to outscore the opposite side of that. 80th percentile outcome for me on that first group is roughly 100 fantasy points. I have it basically 10 fantasy points less for the opposite side. Now that's just my stuff, but they can go either direction, but I think there's a lot more upside in the Gallo, Hardaway, Harris side. Blackbird, favorite play for a FanDuel GPP. We got about 2 or 3 minutes to go before we have to bail out of here. Give Jordan Klein a couple extra minutes to make that transition to live before lock. FanDuel GPP play. I mean, I don't know if I have. I guess my favorite FanDuel GPP play, I wanted to say it was Kristaps Porzingis, but he's 41% owned. So I don't know if there is one. Yeah,
I think Porzingis is a solid option. The guy who could, at that price, Porzingis has the potential in him to score 50 plus fantasy points. So I like that option. Let's see. In low owned tournament option,
22% owned Gallo. Is he the guy? Is he a decent GPP option in FanDuel?
I think he's decent. I think Bogdanovich, I guess 28% owned. It's a 2-game slate. A lot of these guys are going to have some sort of ownership. I mean, at this rate, I guess let's see if Dwight Howard, if Embiid acts up, the 10% low on Dwight Howard, you might get a weirdly extended run of Howard if Embiid somehow gets hurt.
Is there an issue if Gallo and Hunter end up in a lineup together in a 20 max on DK?
It's not something it's fine. It's not that exciting. They could share the court. It's a 2-game slate. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but you could obviously deviate and take your chances. The negative correlation that could happen there already.
All right. Let's see if we have one additional question before we get out of here and turn it over to the live before lock crew. And I don't really see anything. I think we're done. Someone's typing in premium Slack right now. If this is a question I'm going to ask. Oh, they stopped typing. Never mind. Sorry, you lose. I don't have anything else. Is there anything else you want to sum up right now before we get out of here?
No, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Hope you guys are on the right side of injuries and foul trouble, and hopefully you guys find a way to the top of the lineups. It was a lot of fun doing yet again a Sunday show with you, Josh.
Love it.
Hey, good luck.
I love it. All right, everybody, that is it. Stay tuned. Do not leave. Stay on this stream right now. You don't got to go anywhere. We're coming up. It's here. NBA Live Before Lock. It's not going anywhere. And this is where you need to be if you want to get the news on Joel Embiid, if you want to get the news on DeAndre Hunter. There's nowhere else to be but right here on the Awesemo.com YouTube channel. Good luck today, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. We're getting back and started again tomorrow, Monday, and we're back. It's just we're back into the work week. We're back into churning out content all day long. Good luck, everybody. We're out of here.
And we are 1:30, right? Going the extra half hour. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on if you're in, I don't know, Philadelphia or LA, and we welcome you in to the live before lock. All right. No more of the showdowns. You can still run that in these two games, but now at least it's feeling like ages here that we've had more than one game on the slate. It returns today. And you talk about two completely different dynamics. One series out east is opening up. And yes, there's a major question mark about the man in the middle. On the other hand, we have game 7, the improbable game 7 that I am totally shocked that we're here, that Eric Lindquist's Clippers did not handle business earlier in the series. But you know what? At Eric Lindquist, at Shander Show, we're here with you for the next, not 60, 90 minutes, courtesy of No House Advantage. My man, my mellow, it's always a pleasure, brother.
Hey, this is fantastic. It's also great. I think you're in my neighboring room, which is great. Over here at the Motel 6, we're here rocking out.
Is that nice where you are, the Motel 6? Because I'm in the extended stay.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Well, a little different, but we're across the street from each other. It's nice to be sharing, the same sentiments around us, the same hotel rooms here. I get eviscerated in chat all the time about it. So I had to have some fun with it considering.
Oh, no, I am officially in a hotel room. Yes. Yeah. And you can even see my dog just chilling in the bed behind as an extra addition here. It's a Weimaraner.
Oh,
yeah.
Like
so they're
a good day.
Beasts.
Right there in the sun. Oh, it's a good time.
90 degrees out, man. I don't know about you out west. I don't know how comfortable you all are in the heat, but when a heat wave hits in the Northeast, we sit down and we bitch about it. All right. So I'm not going out much at all today at 90 plus degree weather. There's no golf. There's barely walking the dog. All right. This is the excuse to sit and watch 2 basketball games and anything else in between it.
Yeah, this is out here we have an ocean that helps. You can go jump in that thing if you want to. I probably don't do that as much as I probably should, considering I live in Los Angeles. I would say most people in Los Angeles think that way, but one Jordan Klein gets to live in the old Marina Del Rey, so he's fancy. Out of all of us here, he's the fancy one who gets to enjoy all the nice things. It's about 15 degrees cooler there than it is here in the Valley. He's doing things correctly with his life.
That is, all I know is it's just more, or it's nicer than where I am. That's basically what I know about that area. Whatever you're describing, I know for a fact is nicer than Philadelphia right now. So I could say that without a doubt.
No, Philly's fine.
And I love Philly. Yeah. Yes, but we don't have LA. Like, come on. Look, it's like when people say Miami or, come on. These climates and the areas, Eric, you've been there forever.
I would have to agree.
Okay.
Eric is the spoon to
now,
Shander.
Let's look at today, because are you even focused? Like, I know you're going to run 150 lineups, as many as you possibly can, but I know you have bets as well on this game. It's your team. There is and I don't even want to bring it up, but the possibility that they may not even win, although I'm pretty much on your side heavily that they are. But you've got so many different things going on. Are you in focus today, Eric?
No, I'm a little off. It's hard because I've bet the Clippers and I've talked about it, I think, on probably 20 shows on the Awesemo network where it's just like Clippers are getting out of the West. You just kind of stay true to it. 6 straight road games is a strange feeling to have. Now at home, it's like, would you prefer the game to be in Dallas at this point in time? Does that like activate Kawhi a little bit? But I'm excited to be watching this game. I think everybody else is too. It's going to be a good one. I hope everybody plays pretty darn well, but I hope the Clippers win by a lot.
A lot. Now, is that like the better in you, or is that the fan in you?
It just like solidifies my take rather than having them eke it out, then go into the next round, then feel like I need to hedge out of some positions, then feel like they're not as good as what I think they have been for all year. I mean, Kawhi and Paul George are an amazing duo, and they haven't necessarily gotten it done in the postseason here together. But I think today is the day that they kind of assert themselves, that Kawhi Leonard goes completely bonkers. It's going to be a tough one, I think, for Luka. I hope.
Yeah, and
I hope.
No, well, look, I think there's a lot of reality behind it, right? And just looking across the board today, I think the biggest question mark right now, and I'm trying to track down as we get closer to this official word on it, but approaching it right now with Joel Embiid and kind of the up and down, that's pretty much where to begin, I would think, as far as just the injury concern. And clearly, as you've seen and everybody else has seen, this is a completely different team. I wouldn't count on Seth. That's just the hopeful in me. I wouldn't count on Seth Curry to drop 30 again. And, it is going to be a lot on Harris if, in fact, Embiid is out. I wouldn't be shocked at all between us if they rest Embiid this and next game, assuming they'd win game 1. But as we kind of await the final word from it, how are you approaching this slate, knowing it's the second game for the first time in a long time, and you have that huge question mark on top with Embiid?
I don't think we have to worry about it until if it's 9:45 out here, if it's 12:45 your time, and we don't have this news, then I'm probably going to start panicking. But until then, I'm assuming we're going to have enough time to be able to react. I don't think we need to overthink it. We've also seen this situation play out multiple times in a playoff setting now. So this isn't just a regular season spot where we don't have like the certainty of it. We know that Tobias Harris is going to be overpriced across the industry if Joel Embiid plays. Same thing with Ben Simmons. Same thing with just about everybody else on this team. But it's a 2-game slate. We've got to find out how to allocate our salary. I think for me, the priority is trying to make sure I have as much of this game 7 as possible. I think the DeAndre Hunter news, I tell people this a lot, and I don't know if it sinks in, and maybe I haven't said it enough on these shows, but every piece of news matters on a 2-game slate. It just does. Every single piece of news matters. So DeAndre Hunter matters. And if it doesn't matter, because it can also matter in terms of it gets people off ownership of certain other plays. It can matter because you have a piece like Danilo Gallinari, who I already have interest in. I want a ton of him with no DeAndre Hunter, because that's just a lot of minutes that need to be allocated. They've kind of proven they don't want to play Solomon Hill. I think that would be somebody who could maybe pick up a minute or two that we could try at, just a minimum price tag to try to get different. But for the most part, every piece of news matters. So we'll wait on this Hunter news, and we'll wait on Joel Embiid. And if it's 15 minutes before, we panic. But until then, we're good.
All right, so let's start, fair enough, at the top of the slate and kind of work our way down to some value here. And I know the hopeful in you, the better in you and I, is not expecting or at least wanting this blast game from Luka, but realistically slotting him in lineups. How do you approach that?
You just do it and say that one more time. Sorry, one more time.
Is he just across the board? Is he? I mean, look, he's the only guy on DraftKings and I know Kawhi just hovers below it, but really you've got a couple of guys in that 9K range, and then Luka, and the return is always going to be worth it. I mean, it's similar to what we saw with Russ, if not better of an option. So, is there really any hesitation outside of maybe ownership on just a 2-game slate that would deter you in a couple of lineups from Luka?
Well, I think the Embiid news matters a lot when it comes to a site like Fanduel, where you're playing one center and, it's $2,000 more than Clint Capella. They'll be going back and forth at each other. Those minutes, you got to assume he's still going to be playing around 30 minutes. I mean, he didn't play 30 minutes in an entire game of that entire series. They had multiple blowouts. He ended up getting dinged up game 4, didn't play game 5. I think like 28, 30 minutes of Joel Embiid is more meaningful than any other center on this slate. I mean, it's basically going to be him and Capella if Embiid's in. Like, I won't play another center probably. I know Boban at 3,900. Yeah. At least they didn't price him up, because if you're pricing him in like 4,500 for his role, like there wouldn't be interest. But I can see why people want to go 3,900 there. But I just don't know what that ownership. It's really the timing of what this news is, that the Joel Embiid ownership will be there, because if it happens 10 minutes beforehand, how many people are comfortable clicking in a dude who's dinged up, who we know has a knee issue in game 1 of a game at 9,900 when you have Luka, Kawhi, and Paul George on the board? I'm going to say it's not very likely that it gets up over 10% on FanDuel, or 15%. And that's the time you just want to be massively overweight to the field on it.
Jeez, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
sorry.
Luka Doncic. So Luka Doncic, back to your question, I should address that part of it too.
Yes.
If you're looking at the entire point guard position over on FanDuel, you got Trae Young, you got Ben Simmons, you got Reggie Jackson. You got 3 of those guys that really kind of stand out. Rondo would be a huge tournament dart for me, and George Hill at minimum salary is still in play. He's purely to give you a different build and to be able to pay up elsewhere. But, Luka Doncic is by far the guy that is going to project out as your highest raw point score on this slate. Kawhi Leonard went completely bonkers last time out, still didn't surpass Luka Doncic over on FanDuel, still didn't surpass him over on DraftKings. Like, you got to feel pretty confident that if you're trying to just jam in raw points and take some shots on some sketchy value, Luka's the way to do that. But if Luka goes for 55, there's an opportunity of him not being optimal in that spot. And based on where his ownership is right now, I think it's about appropriate, and we can kind of figure out what we want to do elsewhere. But what do you like? Nobody needs me to tell them that Luka Doncic is a good play or a bad play. It's simply, what are the paths for failure for him? And does it make sense to be lighter to the field? I think being at the field or maybe a little bit above it might make the most sense, but that's just pending me waiting on this Embiid news. As it stands right now, if Embiid were to sit, I think you got to be overweight on Doncic because raw points just matter so much. But if you get Embiid in, I think I will embrace the uncertainty of whatever those minutes look like. If it's 26, 25, I think you can still be good in that spot. He saves you $2,000 basically off of Doncic on DraftKings, or just close to it. So we're still sitting and waiting.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Let's just go back to this hypothetical about Embiid playing, which, again, game time decision, torn meniscus. We know that he didn't get the necessary rest / procedure in order to be full healthy in order to come into this game. Resting even this series would make most sense just to prepare for the Eastern Conference Finals. So that being the point, really, and it's not even a medical point. You're the doctor here on the show, Eric, but it's not even that so much as you really can't expect more than 30 minutes. Look, if this team is up by double-digit points, they're going to sit him. I promise you that. There's going to be a minutes restriction, and he's not going to care because he's going to look around. That place is going to be rocking down in South Philadelphia, and everybody else is going to be going crazy. Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle are going to get dunks, and he's going to be waving a towel on the sideline. He won't care. So that's my point, is that there are so little, I think, paths to Embiid playing 35, 38 minutes in this game that I would be concerned playing him even if he is in this lineup.
Yeah, I would never project him for those kind of minutes. I mean, I'm looking more in the ballpark. I think I said just short of 30. Like, I could see him getting to 30. That would be the absolute limit on it. Again, he didn't play 30 minutes in that entire Washington series. I'd have him more for 26. Like right in that ballpark. The one thing I will say is that, Embiid gets this reputation for being soft for different things, whether it was the Toronto afterwards when he was crying and other things. I think the dude's pretty tough. And I also think that he really likes to show it off on both sides of the floor. And he likes to push to play. Like, there's certain players that I've kind of like, I try to factor it in because, you watch enough basketball and there are small things that can't necessarily be completely data driven, but one thing that I've noticed from Embiid is he does push to play a lot more than the average star does in these spots. It's a game one. I know that just from watching him multiple times and hearing him in interviews, like, there's no way that if he has any possibility of playing this game that he won't, and he'll try to push to play as many minutes as possible. And also, if you end up playing him here in this spot and you're up 15, I could make an argument on the other side where it's like, why not let him go out and play a little bit more in the event that the knee ends up flaring up, sit him game 2 and then move on from there. Like, there's an opportunity and a path for that.
Yeah, I'll say this, though, that the franchise doesn't have a good history of managing injury, especially his, which is why, to your point, and I'll reinforce it 100 times over, Joel Embiid, and he's not the only one, but he is definitely the most visible and vocal, pushes a lot more to be out there. There is a sense of underlying whatever the proper phrase would be, trust towards not necessarily the docs, Eric, but just handling it, right? Like, that's where I think there could be a team decision today, and I'm still trying to track this down, that he sits. But to your point, if Joel Embiid sits today, that's not Daryl Morey or Doc Rivers coming over to him saying, hey, young man, I bring this up because if Joel Embiid sits today, this is a problem. Like, he is legit hurt. This is not, he's using it to take a day off or he's using it to get back into shape or anything contrary to the point you made about Embiid. I think that there is legit concern if Joel Embiid is not out there today because Embiid is the one through his own health making the call. And he's gone through it so many times, right? Year in and year out, where you get 5 minutes before tip at 7:00 down in South Philly. Oh, no, sorry. He's out of the lineup.
What was that?
I'm sorry, just that he was out of the lineup towards the end. Did you not hear me? Or
Oh, yeah, no, I heard you. Yeah, that he's out of the lineup towards the end. Yeah, that he could end up sitting on that spot. I thought there was another part to the question there at the end.
No, it wasn't a question. Okay. I was just having a conversation. I'm sorry. We do have a question.
Shander, you're crushing. You're just fine. I'm just kind of going back and forth. It's a little staticky in my headphones today. I don't know why, but for the most part. No,
I'm on the road.
It's you. I don't think it's you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll blame you if you want to take it. I mean, that's fine by me. But
I'm still new enough that you could blame me for everything. To be fair, I have another month of probation.
The Awesemo way is making fun of me. That is what you have to do. That's honestly, you can just jump right in and you're just fine in that regard. But yeah, I there's enough uncertainty there. But also, you have to look at it. The uncertainty is factored into the ownership. It's not like Joel Embiid's going to be 40% owned today. It's not like he's going to be 35% owned, 30% owned. Like, he's not going to be any of those numbers because of that uncertainty. So you're embracing that volatility. You're embracing that risk, but it's baked into the ownership. So that's when you do it. You head over to the boom bust tool and you take a look at what exists over at Awesemo to be able to kind of factor in, all right, this is the point where this is the point of no return where you don't go over top of the field. But I can't imagine we're going to get to that number today, especially because we don't have that news 40 minutes beforehand. And, we keep bringing it up. We keep talking about it, but this is such an important part of how we build on this slate because, it's one other spend up out of the four that we really have. And then Tobias Harris is 8,800 over on Fanduel, but we have so many guys that we want to be paying up for on this slate. And Joel Embiid is by far the riskiest out of all of them, but he's also got 55, 60 point upside at sub 10% ownership. So sign me up.
Yeah. I mean, looking at it to your point, or just seeing on the boom bust tool now on DraftKings, he's at 14%. And I can't imagine that outside of news coming down that he's officially in, this is going to creep up much more. So to your point, it's going to be the risk of not only his health, but also the cost with it. Now, speaking of ownership, just kind of approaching now, we have the second game that kind of slide in for the past couple of days. We didn't. Do you get to a point, and Paul George, we have projected right now at 50%. That number is going to rise. Morris as well. Guys, Luka hovering around there. Do you hit a ceiling where you're no longer looking at rostering at least as much one of these top guys? Because look, 4,900 for Morris or 9K for George on a short slate, Eric, that cost is probably going to take a second or maybe third step back.
Yeah, there's only so many places that you can go. Like that's kind of the whole point of the conversation. And then, certain guys are overpriced. Like I wouldn't say Paul George at 9K is even overpriced for what he's been. I mean, he's been about appropriate. It's just factoring him compared to Kawhi, who's 9,900. And we've seen this upside from him where he goes for 55 plus in 5 of the 6 games of this series so far. Like that's just consistent extreme production as opposed to Paul George, where on his best day isn't going to pass that number. Like it's just going to be very difficult for Paul George to catch Kawhi Leonard in a lot of these spots. Same thing with Luka Doncic, who's just, he's been transcendent in these spots. So Paul George is overpriced, but the one time that it works out, or because he is $900 less, if he gives you access to a player that you can't get elsewhere, that's when you want to be doing it. Marcus Morris, 4,900. I think he's been so up and down. He had the one good game in game 5 where he just kind of went completely nuts, but he's been playing gigantic minutes. I just wish I could see the usage there a little bit, but he was 1 for 10 last time out. So I'm not going to overthink that too much. I think 4,900 Marcus Morris sounds like a good place to be invested. I think over on Fanduel as well, 5K. I think he's one of the better salary savers on the board in that mid-range. You're getting insane minutes. If you can knock down some shots, you're spiking an upside there. And the ownership's going to be there everywhere on this slate. But right now, sitting around 50%, that's a hefty number. But where else are you saving money at power forward? Everybody projects horrendously at that position. And, I'm hoping we don't get any, I'm hoping that we get Hunter to sit out. So we at least get a little bit more value. We can maybe feel more secure in the minutes for a guy like Danilo Gallinari, who's coming in at 24 minutes in our projections, but would want to be over top of that too. But Marcus Morris, Paul George, it's a game 7. They're going to play a ton of minutes. There's definitely viability to playing both.
All right, so Embiid is out warming up. There isn't a brace on at the moment, and all indications are, Eric, in that regard, that he's going to play.
Okay.
So not even on the inactive list, it looks like. I was trying to track that down as well. So definitely, I'm watching him warm up, and this just came out, verified account here in Philly. He's out there. So from that standpoint, I think, didn't mean to have that whole arena in the background as well. But from that whole standpoint, I think we're in pretty good shape, at least leaning towards now looking at Embiid playing. And look, if that's people rushing to FanDuel or DraftKings and playing Embiid, that's one thing. But one thing that you and I didn't talk about, and we can, and again, just looking at everything here on the boom bust tool, as Eric mentioned, to the ownership projections, we're looking at everything, awesemo.com, even the fantasy cruncher. You want to crunch a couple of lineups, it's $29.95 for the week. And it's really easy and simple to navigate throughout. You're going to get everything that you can possibly get. Now, we do have something for you for Awesemo Plus Platinum. And I want to let everybody know that the code is simple. It's the NBA Deeper Dive, Live Before Lock. That's our show. And that's what we're doing here. NBA Live Before Lock. It'll give you 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So think $29.95 Awesemo Plus. It's amazing. You can get the NBA DFS package, the Awesemo Plus NBA Weekly package. That's $16.95, the $4.95 NBA Weekly Express package. But really, if you want to jump from Awesemo Plus to Awesemo Plus Platinum, NBA Live Before Lock, 15% off at checkout. Dwight Howard, I think, is going to get a little more run than we saw with, Ben Simmons running that 5, that small lineup they could get away with against Washington, Eric, only because Clint Capella is just going to do whatever the hell he wants with Joel Embiid as far as, if he's limited with minutes or on the bench. So outside of just in that game, looking anywhere else, you mentioned one other center. You probably said you're going to stay away more so from Boban. Is there a legit pivot for you with Embiid if you're still concerned about how much you can get from him?
I'm not going to play Boban on Fanduel. Like I think that's kind of a spot where I'm wanting to pay up. I think Boban's kind of somebody you have to be playing quite a bit over on Draftkings. Like 3,700, he's getting enough minutes to be very viable in that spot. Like I think you just have to be playing a little bit of Boban on DK. I don't know where else you're finding savings to be able to play multiple studs if you're not taking some shots on 3,700 Boban. Like it just makes it very difficult on this slate. But going around the rest of the position, if you're just looking at it from an ownership spot, I mean, John Collins is now under 6K, and that's kind of the whole reasoning is, he hasn't been very good. And Capella's been awesome. So Clint Capella becomes the guy at, he's the exact same ownership over on DraftKings. I would rather go overweight on Clint Capella, 7,700. If you get a limited Embiid of some kind, or, if he weren't to play, that's definitely Clint Capella time. He's going to be out on the floor a bunch here. If he can avoid the foul trouble there, he can definitely be the guy to go for 40 plus. Rebounds the ball at a ridiculous clip. He had over 11 rebounds every single time out for like the last 2 weeks. I believe in the last series, he had a minimum of 12 was the least amount of rebounds he had in a game. He's just kind of a automatic dude to be able to put up crazy amount of rebounds. So like you can rack those up, maybe sneak into a double, and he becomes optimal real quick. But the rest of the center position becomes just gross after Embiid. I mean, you're getting Porzingis, you can play power forward center over on DK. Cauley-Stein, I don't think there's really any point of having to play him on this slate. If you have Boban sitting there at 3,700, 31 Willie Cauley-Stein, I mean, what's his path to ending up optimal? I know he played 19 minutes last time out. He's going to get no usage. He really isn't a great rebounder here at this point in time. Like I find it difficult at a 0.8 fantasy point per minute on DraftKings that I even want to take any shots on him. He's getting around 12% ownership. I'd rather just have none and move on with my day from there. But I could see maybe having some shots on Kleba, who only played 21 minutes last time. He would have to be in the starting lineup. I doubt that they end up starting him here now in this spot. But he definitely is limited from this Achilles injury. But Zubac's the last guy you could really talk about, but played 5 minutes last time. Another guy I just don't think you need to take shots on. So it's really Boban. On FanDuel, I think you basically got 3 center plays. If you wanted to play a foul issue narrative too, you could maybe go to Dwight Howard as like your tournament shot. Played 16 minutes and put up 30 plus. He does that quite frequently. So that'd be the last guy to maybe take a shot on. But on this slate, it's pretty stacked up top and you just stick there.
Yeah. So let's look at, I'm just curious. You brought up something with Capella, and I know we're kind of swinging this pendulum back and forth kind of crazy, but Embiid out there, Embiid warming up. And I'll just build off the point you made 20 minutes ago about who he is and how much he's willing to push through things. There's a pretty good shot he does play 28, 30 minutes. And there's a pretty good shot that he dominates. And it's not just on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to make things much difficult. Does this at all mitigate or maybe even nullify the option of going with Embiid and Capella, or even Capella, maybe a bigger fade with that narrative of Embiid having a monster game? How does that impact Capella on that side, as opposed to what we just broke down, which is, hey, if there's a struggling Embiid, lack of minutes Embiid, foul trouble Embiid, Capella can thrive?
Yeah. Capella is obviously you got to think that it's a good thing to not have Joel Embiid on the floor for his production. Like I think that's kind of something we should just say is a fact, because Joel Embiid is phenomenal at basketball. He's very difficult to account for on a floor. Clint Capella is not somebody who gets in a bunch of foul trouble. I'm trying to find what his exact numbers were for the entire season. 2.7 fouls per 36. That's a phenomenal rate for a center. Doesn't get in foul trouble very often, especially for a blocking or a guy who gets as many blocks and racks them up as he does. 2.7. That's a phenomenal number. So I think the one thing I would say is that Capella is going to have to be on the floor for whatever those minutes are across from Embiid, or you're going to want him on the floor, barring the foul trouble. And if he can keep his hands to himself, if he's very good at kind of avoiding those kind of things and racking those up, that might be a couple minutes boost. I mean, he did get up to 37 there in that closeout game last time out. Let's see what the rest of the numbers were. Yeah. So, I mean, he'd been routinely playing 33, 34 plus minutes that entire time. So I like getting to Capella either way, but you got to think his per minute rates are going to be a lot better without Embiid on the floor, but maybe that's kind of made up by the fact that he's going to be on the floor, maybe for those extra 2, 3, 4 minutes alongside Embiid.
All right, so looking again, we got the premium Slack up and running, super chat as well here on the stream, a lot of back and forth. We're still waiting on DeAndre Hunter. Embiid is official, so do what you like with that. And I did see somebody earlier on the chat saying he is fading, or they are fading Method Man Johnson, fading the hell out of Embiid, not falling into that rabbit hole 2 days in a row. Now that he's in, Eric, would you like to respond to that specific statement?
Yeah, okay. This came out half an hour early. So we're going to see a lot of optimizers. We're going to see a lot of things that have time to get Embiid into them. I was hoping this news was going to come out a little bit later. We're going to have
so we could drag it out.
The ownership. Yeah, well, no. What happens is that people don't change their lineups. People don't account for the new news. And now they have 30 minutes to be able to react. You have so many people that are either hand building or putting their lineups in early, and they'll be tweaking stuff. But I think Embiid will be much higher owned than I think I would want him to be at this point in time. We'll see what it gets to. I think on FanDuel, I still want to be taking that shot because it is such a tight pool up there. Because position doesn't matter as much. You can play Boban and move on with your center position on DK. You could play Capella for cheaper. You could do that. But he's still 9,400, which is an underpriced Embiid for what he's been the entire season. I think what we really got to talk about with this news is how it affects Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, who are now priced up to places where you're kind of assuming that Embiid wouldn't be on the floor. Like right now, you have Ben Simmons 8,300 on DK. That's still fine by me. I think you can still go there. Tobias Harris 8,500. That's going to be a lot tougher for me. Like, I think we're going to see Tobias Harris at 8,800 on FanDuel specifically is the one that takes a huge dive for me. The rest of the position is garbage, and you have to play two over there. And there's Collins at 6,500 who's been bad. Porzingis has been somehow even worse. It's just been absurd how much he's tried to kill me. But Marcus Morris, 5K, becomes my favorite power forward, and I'll probably be overweight no matter what now on FanDuel. 8,800 FanDuel for Tobias Harris. I mean, if he goes for 35, you're going to want the other two guys, either Collins or Porzingis. And, I think that's his projection is going to drop below 40 here. I got to feel like we're going to have some uncomfortable decisions to make with the rest of these Sixers, because it's just so much production that's stepping into the lineup now with Embiid. So as much as we've talked about Embiid playing and that being a big issue, I think this really just has to take a steep dive for Tobias Harris for me.
I'm interested to get your thoughts on somebody that you're probably going to be able to get cheaper in regards to the overall slate. 5,100, Seth Curry. He does well, especially after coming off of a career game in the playoffs. He's the guy that can really benefit from Embiid on the floor, the spacing that's provided, even if it's a result of a secondary pass. So at 5,100, it might be a little high because of what he just came off of that final game against Washington. But to your point about Tobias Harris being overpriced coming off that game without Embiid, the expectation without Embiid tonight or today, and now looking at someone like Seth Curry, granted, you're going to have to move around a different spot on the roster. I get it. But just as looking at somebody else on the Sixers, not named Simmons and Harris, can you get too much exposure to Seth Curry today, Eric?
So Seth Curry with Embiid on the floor with them 17% usage. We're going to take Embiid off. It just becomes a question of how many shots he can get. So yeah, he can be opened up a lot more, but if he's taking fewer shots or if he's not as involved, let's see, with Embiid off the floor, you're looking at him around 19.6. So I think that makes sense that you're losing some shot attempts to Joel Embiid there.
Which everybody is.
Yeah, which everybody's going to. And that's exactly it. Like, I think because of his salary, where he's at being cheaper, it doesn't affect him nearly as much because the upside still exists to get over top of what that tag is to still pay off his salary. That doesn't exist for Tobias Harris. That doesn't exist. Ben Simmons gets his statistics in a bunch of different ways. So I think he's kind of the anomaly where we can kind of say, all right, as long as we're getting 35 plus minutes of Ben Simmons, which you would obviously have coming off of a game where he played 39 in the one close game they had against Washington in that game 5, but 80 playing Ben Simmons over there. But yeah, Tobias Harris just got it. He's got to be the main guy. And we'll see that happen in the ownership. I think it was already baked in. 24.4% is where he was on DK. I expect that number to come down even further. 8,500 paying up for him would be a very contrarian play on this slate. And he's the one who sees the biggest dip to his overall production here on the entire season for let me find his entire DK rate. It's just taking forever to refresh this morning because, of course, it does. But looking at it as a whole, Tobias Harris, 1.14 DraftKings points per minute on the season. That's with Embiid in the lineup there. And then you take Joel Embiid off the floor. I'm stalling for time as this thing refreshes constantly.
You're doing a pretty good job of it, though.
I'm doing
it's
a great
pretty
job.
seamless.
It's seamless.
No, I know.
1.27 with Joel Embiid off the floor. That's a meaningful spike there. 0.13. That's a gigantic number relative to terms where I think I've got to be lighter on Tobias Harris no matter what now. I just do. Hello? Oh, there he is.
Okay, real quick. It looks like you got me.
Yep.
It looks like we have news
second.
that Hunter. Okay, sorry about that. I'll talk through it just like you do. Looks like Hunter is out. Just trying to get that locked in, right? So no DeAndre Hunter. Are you getting that as well?
Yep, just saw it.
Okay, good. So no Hunter is out. Let's hit the super chat, then we'll address DeAndre Hunter's absence from this game. Tharusa asks on the super chat, and already hitting the like button as soon as Tharusa pops in. So, you know, a seasoned veteran when it comes to the Awesemo chat. We shouldn't have to remind you, but we do. We take pleasure in reminding you. And look, subscribe as well. That's key here in what we are doing and really helps us out exponentially. So the question on the super chat, Eric, for you, how about Tyrese Maxey and George Hill plays? Got here late, already hit the like button. Thank you. Thank you for that. We saw Tyrese. Look, Doc Rivers, I can tell you this, brother. Doc Rivers loves Tyrese Maxey. I think he loves Tyrese Maxey more than his own son. Honestly, he loves any opportunity he can get. He'll play Maxey, but I defer to you.
So he's under 4K. That's the one good thing we're going to say over on DraftKings for Tyrese Maxey. If you want to be taking shots on him, sounds nifty, lovely, whatever else. He's 4,300 over on Fanduel. Just, it's going to be contrarian at this point in time. He's got double-digit ownership already. That's going to happen on 2-game slates, guys like this who can provide an upside. Obviously, you saw 22 minutes and 26 minutes the last two. If you could tell me that he was going to play 20 plus, awesome, great. But he's only projected right now for 15.5. I think that's about right. I think there's some massive downsides. So you get Joel Embiid on the floor. There's less of a need for an offensive spark to be coming off the bench and be doing the meaningful things that we've been seeing out of, you know, him and Korkmaz and Thibault and taking all these shots. I think George Hill, I weirdly feel better about because he has minimum salary over on FanDuel. And then his price over on DK currently sitting at 3,500. A little bit cheaper. I think his minutes are a little bit more guaranteed. Like for whatever reason, I mean, you had Embiid out for the second half of that game 4, and you saw Maxey come in and play awesome. And then, you know, played 26 minutes. He was definitely a part of their plan for game 5. Less of a plan now. Going to be difficult for me to get to any meaningful number. But if you got to a couple shares of him in 150, or if you were making 20 lineups and you had him in like 1 or 2, there's nothing I could say that was like wrong about that. But I definitely do not want to be overweight to 10% now.
Fair enough. Just looking around here, let's get back to the Hunter news really quick. How does that impact what you were doing? Maybe not at all, or maybe it does big time.
Yeah, I think it has to. Every piece of news on a 2-gamer, especially somebody who plays mid-30s minutes. So he played 35, 27, 34 minutes the last 3 up against New York. This is kind of a big deal because you're going to see guys start to play a big boost to minutes. Like Danilo Gallinari at 4,500 on FanDuel is like the de facto dude that I am clicking a lot now. Like he has to be a source of your savings. Kevin Huerter, he's 4,100 over on FanDuel. He has to be in more lineups now. Like both of those two are the main guys who have been playing fewer minutes from the regular season up until the playoffs here. They both have to be receiving a jump. It just has to happen. And if you want to have like the low-owned dude that nobody's going to click off of this and could play 15 minutes now instead of the 11 or 13 he's been playing, Lou Williams is 3,200 over on DraftKings. Don't like completely write off Lou Williams as a guy against Philadelphia who could come in and just like torch in 15 minutes and work his way into being optimal. I think there's a number of these guys sitting around 3,200, 3,300, or just a little bit below it, starting George Hill at 3,500 and down, who you want to be taking some shots on. I think I'm going to take a shot or two on Lou Williams now, just in the event that those minutes become more like 15, 16, and he can just go nuts.
So looking at, starting to balance in, and again, we'll take more of the super chats on here, just looking at the premium Slack as well. Go ahead. What do you got?
We got Solomon Hill starting. Of course we do.
DeAndre Hunter out, Solomon Hill in. You're going to change everything?
I mean, Solomon Hill's been out of the rotation, which is just like...
This is a major wild card in this, man.
Yeah.
How many minutes can you really expect from Hill? Not George Hill, Solomon Hill.
Solomon Hill was playing like 30s minutes there for a long time with no DeAndre Hunter out there. I mean, this just shows you how much they don't want to be playing Gallinari for any kind of like extreme meaningful minutes for whatever reason. It's so weird. He got it to 29 in one game, but 25, 23, 23, 17. Those were his other four in that New York series. I'm going to default a little bit to, let me see. Yeah, I mean, Solomon Hill was playing like just short of 30 minutes a game there for the stretch that Hunter was out there as he was starting to, because he didn't get acclimated till the end of the season there. I mean, this is just gross. And I knew that this was a possibility to have Solomon Hill in there, but I didn't think we would see him in the starting lineup by any means. That's something. That's definitely something there.
Well, I'm curious as I go back here really quick to the super chat and actually on the Awesemo Slack, it's a combination of what we saw in the chat from EMAC and a follow-up because we must have glossed over it, or maybe you purposely glossed over the question. I don't know. Office Ninja 87, though, reminding you, Eric, that there is a question pending, which is EMAX about how much you've actually wagered. A small horse, small car, a house, a mortgage, like a child's college fund. What is on the table right now for the Clippers, which we know is inevitable, right? That they're going to beat Dallas. I know every single road team, first time in history, game 6, all this other crap. But this is where it shifts back, right?
Yeah. This is like in Showcase Showdown on The Price is Right. Small car. Yeah. I'm going to go with Ford. No, I'm not going to say the number. That's absurd. Small car is the number. We've just
small car though. Like, but what's that? One of these,
like a used car. You go down to the old crusty market over there, and you pick out the one that's like the shiny one in the corner that might actually be all right, as opposed to some of the real dusty ones. Like it's not a brand new, like it's not a Tesla, it's not anything like that. But I've got.
What do you got? A Datsun?
I don't even know what that is, but yeah, I feel a little, my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. That is what I will tell you. Flat out, that is my Clippers situation today.
Fair enough, my friend. All right. Rhyme Life Music wants to, look, real quick, before we hit that again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have been in that position many times. Anybody who bets, plays DFS lineups, they're all out throughout the day, throughout the year on their favorite team. You go through this, especially from a betting standpoint, especially where you know your team. So I've always said that people, you never bet your own team. Yes, you always bet your own team. There's nobody who knows your team better than you, the one that follows them, right? It's not going to be me sitting here from Philadelphia, just looking over and being like,
shorting them. Yeah. As long as you're comfortable saying, I don't like them in this spot. But that's the problem for most people, is that they're only betting for their team. You have to be willing to bet against your team. As a Minnesota Viking fan, there are multiple times where I have been shorting my team. Like there have been multiple times where I'm like, we're going to get obliterated today. And they go to Green Bay and lose by 21. That's just kind of how it works. And you can see the writing on the wall. But as long as you're willing to bet against them and take advantage of your knowledge to short them, then it's fine. But when you're just pro your team every single time with pure allegiance and no unbiased opinion, then you're in trouble.
How are you a Clippers and then Vikings fan?
I'm a Clippers fan through betting,
osmosis,
through betting, because I've just bought into this team for the last 2 years. And
got it.
Yeah, I'm a huge Kawhi Leonard fan is what I am. I'm obsessed with Kawhi Leonard. I think that when Kawhi Leonard is in full Kawhi Leonard mode, when he's fully initiated, he's the best two-way player in the NBA. I absolutely love the guy. What he did in Toronto in one season was just absurd. Obviously, he had a lot of great pieces around him. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, everything fit perfectly for that year. But yeah, I love Kawhi Leonard, and I will continue to be on the side of Kawhi Leonard more times than not.
See, here's the thing. Is it I hustle for it? Never bet your own team. The reason being, become emotional, think they know more about their team, give them more credit than they should. That's exactly like if you are a bettor, if you are a sports bettor, then you're not emotional. You're emotional with your money. You're emotional where your money goes. I imagine it's the same thing with DFS. It's the same thing with me. I'll play Cowboys. I'll play Giants. I'll play Washington. I don't give a crap where somebody plays. There's no like allegiance that steps in, nor is there any bias like, oh, I hate the fucking Cowboys, so I'll never play Dak Prescott in a fantasy lineup. Of course not. We're already coming into it rational, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I don't need to make any other point. You have
Fair
made
enough.
it for me here. Yeah, we're already
Fair
there.
enough.
Yeah.
With it, so real quick, going back to Rhyme Life Music's question on the Slack, you can get us here, Awesemo plus $29.95 a week, and the premium Slack available to you where you can hit us up specifically. So the question, what does the Embiid news mean for Thibault? You mentioned Maxey, but what about Thibault and George Hill now?
Do not play Thibault. Just don't do it. Yeah, and not ever. I mean, he played 20 minutes in game 2 and pulled up the stocks card. He had 9 stocks. He can do stuff like that. He can do irrational stuff on the defensive end that is unexplainable and cannot be factored in. But if he doesn't get you 6 to 7 stocks, you are in probably a lot of trouble playing him. He's 3,600. Of course, it's worth taking a shot on him to have like a completely different lineup, but you can say that about so many guys on this slate. I can say it about Lou Williams. I can now say it about Solomon Hill, who I think his ownership is probably going to get to too high of a number for me to want to go there at 3,500. I know he's minimum salary on Fanduel. On DraftKings, I think you have to be factoring him in a little bit here. I think we have to probably click that name more than I want to. Like, I'm already feeling disgusted about it, but he's minimum salary. He's going to be on the floor guaranteed now at this point in time. 3K, I'm going to have a little bit over on TK, but on FanDuel specifically where you're playing 2, and I can kind of mix and match. I would rather play more secure dudes a little bit higher. I think you can get to Danilo Gallinari, who, we've kept his minutes projection the same. I think that there's still a little bit of upside to play 26, 27 minutes. We saw 29 in one game against the Knicks. That would be fine by me. Dorian Finney-Smith, Nicholas Batum, and then Bogdan Bogdanovic. I guess that's the one interesting part of this. Like, his production's gone down a little bit in the last, for sure in the New York series, as a result of DeAndre Hunter coming in, finally being able to play bigger minutes and, gets a couple more of those look like knockdown 3 shots. Like Bogdan Bogdanovic. God, I can't even say that name whatsoever.
Just say
Boggs. Yeah, him.
Yeah, Boggs.
Bogey, maybe.
Bogey. I like Bogey.
I love getting overweight to him on this slate because I think he does have a path to a few more minutes. He's not going to burn you underneath 7K playing 35 minutes. I find it difficult to believe that. He's right around a fantasy point per minute producer. He's got meaningful ownership over on FanDuel right now, but didn't really have much ownership coming in on DraftKings as much. I mean, he's right around 30% now. I guess that's pretty meaningful, but still I want to be overweight to that.
Yeah, I think Bogey works, right? Or Boggs. The chat will know, right? If you reference, it's like when you first reference somebody in a column, then you can just hit them with the last name. You're just going to hit them with Boggs or Bogey. I'll let you decide which one is best for you. Somebody put Bojan
just to screw with me. That wasn't very nice. Bojan.
There you go.
Yeah, he's playing tomorrow, I believe. There's that.
We call him Bogey in the A. See, you're not the only one, right? We're being told by Slick Messi on the chat that Bogey is the nickname, the official nickname in the ATL. See?
Yeah, one of the best places. So if you go to Basketball Reference, you can just basically find out what all of the nicknames of somebody are. So we're going over there. What do we got here? Do we got anything interesting? No pronunciation. They don't have a single thing next to his name. That's not fun. I'm looking for he doesn't have a single nickname next to his name. That's absurd.
That's really disappointing, Eric. I thought that was going to open up a completely different area of conversation, and we were shut down with Basketball Reference.
It's like if you put Joel Embiid in, you get JoJo, the process,
Duo
180, and then Troel. I don't understand that one. Maybe you can explain that to me.
Because he's a troll on Twitter. That's what he does. He trolls everybody. Yeah. So Troel is, yeah. Lupa one, what was it? Get that? Yeah. The process is his thing. Everybody chants the process. He's the process. He has it trademarked everywhere.
Hulu has live sports. That's the other
That's right.
I was thinking of.
That's right. No, I look, I'm curious. Let's go back to Ben Simmons for a second, but in relation to a question that I saw on the chat, because we didn't really talk much in depth about Trae Young and really how much you anticipate getting to Trae Young today, Eric.
Not much. This is a fully now armed defensive unit that's basically out there to stop Trae Young, smaller dude. I trust this team defensively, this Philadelphia team, especially with Joel Embiid on a floor. It's going to be very tough for Trae Young. I got to think 9K. I mean, that's a big number. And against the Knicks, the one part that I would say that bodes well in his favor is the Knicks were by far the slowest team in pace on the entire season, that they just basically were playing at a lethargic pace. He's now priced for his production from those games, and now getting into a Philly matchup where, they're much better defensively, but even like a 220.5 total is decent compared to stuff that they've had of late against the Knicks. I think that this is still a spot where, would it shock me to have Trae Young go for 50? No. But even if he goes for 50, you've got Kawhi, Paul George, and Luka Doncic and Joel Embiid and a lot of other dudes that he would have to beat out. I think 400 less for Ben Simmons on FanDuel. I still would rather be going there, even with Embiid in there. It's going to be a tough ride for Trae Young in this series.
Man, I'd say going off of that, I feel much more confident that I pounded that Sixers -2 opening line when it first came out on the look ahead, because that's the only concern that I have, which is that the Hawks are going to hang. And you get to that point, as you know, where it doesn't matter what you did for, 3.5 quarters. Trae Young with the ball, multiple possessions, just like we saw with Westbrook and Beal, with the Sixers kind of lagging. So I feel much better now. See, you feel good about your team. I feel good about my team. I think we're in good shape.
My team. Every time you say it, it just makes me laugh, because it's like, oh, I'm a Clippers fan now. That's fantastic.
Are you a Wolves fan?
I am, because I hate my life and everything is awful. And so I'm a Minnesota sports fan, and all I do.
Jesus,
you want to know
what's
if you
wrong
want to know
with
why
you?
I'm emotional and why I cry on stream.
Now I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I grew up in the darkness that is the northern Minnesota parts that just make you crumble to your knees. It's awful. But you know what? NFL, yay, let's go. Aaron Rodgers is probably no longer going to be a Green Bay Packer. That puts a smile on my face.
There you go. There you go. You are doomed to eternity of miserable football and sports across the board, man. But you're in LA, so
Thanks,
at least you can get the hell
That's
out.
nice of you to say. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm in Philly, brother, so I've lived it, and I can experience it as well as you can, and together, and all the other people that root for miserable teams. But look, as far as today is concerned, I love your point about Trae Young, because I think you can definitely factor that in, especially if you were looking at the difference between running Young or Simmons. I imagine that Simmons is going to be a much healthier pivot for you.
Yeah, I think he has to become the pivot, and it's so hard to know exactly. I mean, I'm just going off of our ownership here, and I'm kind of rerunning my stuff over on FanDuel right now. It's really hard to know where that ownership is going to be. So it's only a $400 difference. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm not leaving like $400 of salary where you could leave it to go up to Trae Young, because Trae Young, from a projection standpoint, is going to he's going to outpace Trae Young, but both of them are going to be a little overpriced for this spot. Trae Young obviously has the path to being the offensive guy on his team, but that's also baked into the ownership. We're seeing him, coming in 8% more. For me, this almost makes it where I'm really kind of just deciding what to do on air here between the two of them.
This is great.
This
is what we need. I mean, we're 8 minutes before.
Miserable is what it is, because it's like I should probably just click withdraw. Now I can't because it's 8 minutes before lock, but here we are. I think because if the ownership is true, like if it's 46% for Trae Young here and 38% for Ben Simmons, give me Trae Young between those two. But I think it could be much more pronounced than that. It's so hard to factor in what people are going to do in the minutes leading up to it. I got to think that Ben Simmons takes a dip off of this number, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe if he stays up there, if people stick with Ben Simmons or their initial builds, or, if they're like me, where I think Ben Simmons is still fine compared to like Tobias Harris is at a terrible position. And I think that that's why you're seeing that, but I'm just going to go massive overweight to Marcus Morris and Porzingis and kind of piece together my salary or my entire lineups from there. But yeah, I think Ben Simmons, 8,600. He's still got upside at that number here. Trae Young is, I just think, going to have a miserable time. I think what this does is it makes me like Luka the most. I think I'm going to go overweight on Luka, even at 50% or whatever that number ends up being. It doesn't really matter. He's going to have the highest projection here. If I want to short Trae Young, and if I'm going to factor in some Joel Embiid, maybe going Doncic, Embiid, playing a little bit more Reggie Jackson for savings at the position, maybe a smattering, maybe 1 or 2 shots on George Hill. I think that that's probably the right way to go, but I think I'm going to be underweight to Trae Young and Ben Simmons now on FanDuel. That's my final answer.
Fair enough. And you got to it. It was a long one, but you got to it and it made sense the entire time. So credit to you. I'm curious though, when you start
like
to
my
make
grade
these
school
decisions,
teacher, you did so good, Eric. Way to go.
Well, I'm just trying to keep you going.
Point. I know.
We've got 37 extra minutes. I don't want you tapping out, at 1:10 Eastern. That's all. Just keeping you up afloat, my brother. So let's look at this here. If you were looking at, because you mentioned you're overweight now to the field with Luka, heavy on that.
Yes.
So we have to factor in Joel Embiid, and we have to factor in your guys in PG and Kawhi Leonard. So who are you trying to get to the most with Luka as your anchor, if you will? Who else are you trying to get to the most, kind of looking at it as far as where you're ranking those next 3 guys?
Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard has to be next. Like Kawhi Leonard and Luka, not only correlated in the game, just in terms of like both have this game shootout, have it be a game 7 where they're both going to play an infinite amount of minutes. It's got to go those 2. And then for me, like looking at the shooting guard position, I think with Horder, Curry, if you want to take the shots on Maxey, I think there's actually some decent options. I didn't even say Tim Hardaway Jr., who's got big ownership, but not in love with that spot for him by any means. I think Joel Embiid, I just have to do from an ownership perspective as a tournament player. If I didn't go overweight to Joel Embiid on this slate, I would never forgive myself if he went for 55 plus. I just would never allow it to happen because he could come in by far as the lowest owned. I think people are still like uncertain about it. I think what they don't understand is that he's just still a 1.6 FanDuel points per minute producer on the entire season. Didn't play over 30 minutes, had a 58.6 game in that game. What was it? Game 3 up against Washington. Just went completely nuts in less than 30 minutes. He's the kind of guy who can get that done. And if you're not going to play Capella, who, has rightfully the most ownership on this slate, if you want to find ways to get different, if you're not going to play Boban to be able to pay up elsewhere, somebody that I'm now definitely going to be lighter on now that we have Embiid, I just think Embiid has to be the next priority there. He's in this game. I got to assume he's at least healthy enough not to have like crazy amount of concern about him. I think Philly would have been smart about this. This is a game 1. This is not a game 7. Like, come on now. I've got to get them a little bit more credit, although we did just see some really stupid things happen like throughout the entire NBA over the course of handling
Anthony
injuries.
Davis.
But what can you say? It's like, what can you possibly say? And the player's always going to push to play. But I really think just, this Solomon Hill thing is that's the thing I got to figure out in the next 4 minutes is how much Solomon Hill is too much Solomon Hill. Well, probably any Solomon Hill is too much, but 3K on DraftKings, I'm taking the shot. FanDuel, I'm going to kind of avoid it. I think that the ownership's already there in a spot where I don't really want to do it. I'm going to go overweight to Gallinari and hope that works out a little bit better for me. I got to think that that's going to be fine. And then Kevin Horder at shooting guard over on FanDuel as well. Another piece that I just got to be overweight to now.
Real quick, and we can go rapid fire here. We've got 4 minutes before the lock. We are going to be on the extra half hour to look at game 7 extensively. But on the premium Slack, M. Paglia, worth taking a shot on Shake. And we talked about Tyrese Maxey, George Hill. and Matisse Thybulle, I would think that if Doc's going to go to somebody, it's going to be as far as Maxey is concerned over Shake, but you already looked at those three guys kind of equally. So I don't know maybe if Shake Milton shakes out anymore.
I
had to do it.
Shake. I saw what you did there. It was beautiful.
I had to.
I'm here.
No,
for
it
all
wasn't.
The dad
See,
jokes.
now you're bullshitting me.
No, I'm not. F off. Okay, I'm telling you the honest truth. That's what I'm telling you. Is that I love it. The dad jokes that's my brand basically. So, love what you did with those words. No Shake Milton whatsoever for me. None.
There you go. Super chat. Blake Rubin, Bogdan, Bogey, and Reggie, or Simmons and Maxey, DK singly.
Yeah, I like Bogey. What was the Maxey and Simmons?
Simmons, yeah.
Simmons is, I would probably go with the first one because I think my builds are more in line with that. But there's viability. If I'm going one, I'll go the Bogey and Reggie side of it now. Maxey, I just have enough concerns about what those minutes look like.
All right. And also on the premium Slack here, Jeremiah Johnson, looking at anyone other than Boban as he's popped up a little bit. Who else do you have as low cost, super high value?
Other than Boban, you got to say Solomon Hill, 3K on DK. There's that. If you're trying to get different, like if you're trying to figure out a path, like you could say Matisse Thybulle on Fanduel. I think 3,600, you could find some stocks there, and that would be a very meaningful thing to have happen. That could end up passing. You got to find savings somewhere. You can't just play every single stud. So mixing and matching. If you were to get a high upside stocks game from him, he would make some sense. Looking around the rest of the spot, I mean, Boban is a part of what I'm doing on DK, and there's really no way around it. And I'm just fine with that. But let's see. I'm trying to think of one other guy I could give you. I mean, it's just so thin. George Hill would probably be the other guy.
Yeah, 3,500.
He's going to be hitting the floor. I feel much better about him than I do about Maxey, much better than Shake Milton, much better than Matisse Thybulle. I just think that he's been a playoff guy for a long time for different teams. He's bounced around and played meaningful minutes. I think he does again here too.
Anything else before this game locks in? I mean, we've got like 60 seconds. I feel like we've hit a ton as far as this game and comparing it on the big slate as well with the two games. Did we miss anything at all, Eric?
No, I feel good about our work here. We've handled the mess pretty darn well, I think. It's just one of those games where you're going to have maybe one or two guys that you just did not expect underneath 3,600. And if you're making a bunch of lineups, you're trying to ping who that is along with getting the right studs correct. But man, I hope Joel Embiid plays well. That's kind of going to be the make or break for me on FanDuel for sure. I'm happy to take an overweight approach and live with it because it's Joel Embiid at lower ownership.
Yeah, man. Look, you and me both. Okay. You from lineup standpoint, and I was able to squeeze him in a couple as well. So I'll definitely have eyes on that. But a lot of the early look ahead bets here were with the anticipation or at least expectation that he'd play. Now, look, there's always, just because of his history, there's always the, oh my goodness, here we are on game day, or here we are, no warmups. You can always get it, just the rug pulled from underneath you. But the expectation that.
Oh, we got him. Maybe.
Well, he's so.
I did not hear any of that. I'm sorry, Shander.
Just say yes.
It's cutting out on your side. Yes. Robot Shander. There it was.
Oh, it's me?
Yep. I love you though.
Oh, geez. I thought it was you. I was all ready to shame you.
Oh,
and it was you. And here it is. It's me. Well, this is what happens.
Standby. I was like,
I leave my studio for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing.
Am I back? Is there stability?
Yeah, you're back, but I'm going to just tell a quick aside as we're getting going, as we let your internet connection stabilize. But I did the Slate Store podcast with Renpack pretty much. We did it every single Monday through Friday for the entire regular season, for the entire NBA season. His internet would always cut out at times. And so the hard thing about when it starts to trip up is like when you want to jump in, because as soon as you jump in, it's not like you've heard anything or the preface of anything. You're just going, you're just spewing it. And it's like, you play the hopscotch game of do I not? And it's kind of its own little sport. It became a thing where over the amount of time, you just get used to it. And you know what? This is a one-time deal for you. And I'm just fine with that.
Yeah. Look, this is, again, I'm on the road for something.
Oh no. Right off the bat.
It stay
Oh,
through lock too.
oh, I did not hear any of that again. See how this is working?
Yeah.
This is, oh, Shander, you're going to jump in again?
But I
Oh,
through
all right.
seriously. Hold
It's
on.
okay. You're all right. We'll see if it comes back in here.
No, I get now it's gonna work. Yep, it should now,
Love it.
right? A little bit.
Yeah,
Let me give me a little
now
bit.
you're stable.
Come
I
on,
was gonna
right?
say, at least it
Give
took
me a
us
little
all the
bit.
way up to lock. That was fantastic. But we've got this half hour.
So,
we're gonna be pushing.
Here's what I
We're ready
figured
to
out,
rock.
Eric. I need
Mhm.
your help. Okay. This is what I figured out. If
All
I
right.
have our chat open and the Zoom open, the local internet here, and I'm jacked into the wall, but the local internet can't handle that. So if you see any super chats, if you see any shots at me and my frozen face, if you see anything, then you're going to be the guy that has to go to the super chat. I'm going to monitor the Slack. Is that a deal?
Oh, I will absolutely take care of you here as long as I get some screen grabs of you in slow motion there.
I'm
That's good
sure.
times.
I'm sure Jordan is doing wonders right there to make me look even more like a jackass. I promise you that's in the works. All right. Now, as we've hit here to the final half, and we'll start to look at the showdown game here, this mode and Fanduel as well, MVP mode with this late game. Everything here brought to you by No House Advantage. And this is the amazing opportunity you have to bet player props, over 500 of them across the board. We constantly use these and harp on why they are so important. The big difference, of course, is these lock right away. You see the books, they constantly move. You lose value all the time. You can see on Ben Simmons over under as far as the line on No House Advantage, and you see a strong projection to go under, and then you can go to a book and check the difference, and the value's already lost. So No House Advantage is clearly the place to go, and we always have an opportunity for you to take advantage of, and that's our promo code. So a $20 first match deposit, Awesemo, AWESEMO. Go ahead, beat your friends, not the house. That's why No House Advantage is key. Did that all make it?
That all made it. Honestly,
Look
it's
at that.
because it was the sponsor curse. Like for you, if it wasn't talking about the sponsor, we wouldn't have gotten through it. But we did because that's how great it is to be playing over there.
Look, I think you're right that there is something about the No House Advantage mojo that pushed my read through no matter what. It was not going to freeze at all. In fact, I should probably get everything out right now, right? The Awesemo Hall of Fame, Odd Shopper, everything. I mean, look, the reality is that even though my fat face freezes on the screen, don't take that out on Eric or Jordan for that matter. Hit the like button, subscribe. You can share as well. You know, you have the option, right, to share across all your social media platforms. Hey, I'm locked in live before lock. We're extra here for the extra half hour from NHA, but plenty of opportunities and ways in which you can give back because we don't ask much at all here on the community, right?
No,
I really don't think we do.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And these are free every single day. The projections are free constantly. And playing over there throughout the entire NBA playoffs, like it just gives you another ability to be able to buy in short plays, depending on what your DFS exposures are. It can be a great addition to it. Playing multiple sites allows for you to have exposure to more things. It's just a fact of nature. And if you're on your stuff, if you're paying attention, if you're in this Slack chat, if you're paying it, well, most people in our YouTube chat, I would say for the most part, are staying with it that are pretty sharp. Enjoy you'll really enjoy playing over at NHA as well. It just becomes a great addition to your DFS portfolio every day.
Okay, my friend, the time has come. And are we going back to rostering Boban as our captain simply to work in the big three on the slate, which is Kawhi, PG, and of course, Luka?
Yeah, I think we can pull up a couple of their props. Let's see. We've got.
I'm sorry. I was going back to the slate, but let's stay on the props.
Oh yeah.
I love the props.
Let's go back to the slate. What was the question one more time? Go ahead.
Well, it's okay. I mean,
5 minutes.
That's true. It's true. But I didn't want to move away from No House if you had NHA up. So, for example, there are a couple of good props on there. Like, look, Tobias Harris rebounds is set at 9.5, and NHA has it projected just under 7. Yeah. So there's a 92% chance that's going to hit.
Yeah. So those are the static numbers that you want to be looking at because NHA sets their props and then they leave them because it's peer-to-peer gaming. It's not like a sports book that's going to have those props fluctuating. But yeah, as you said, you're going to find these massive disparities between the props, and those are the ones you want to be taking advantage of.
So let me back that up real quick. What you were saying about everything being stagnant, right, and not moving.
Yep.
That was set where Joel Embiid was up in the air. 9.5 rebounds might have been heavy to Tobias getting an extra 2 rebounds simply because Joel Embiid isn't on the floor. So guess what the books are going to do as soon as Joel Embiid is announced he's in? They're going to drop his total, right? Or to make it more difficult in any regard. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to catch up at some point. That's all. So we can get back to the slate. And basically now, and Boban's at 6K. So it's going to be much more difficult than he was the other night where everybody won, right? And Boban was what, like 3 or just over that on the slate. You could really work him in as your captain. But I guess the question is, how can we get to a path where Luka, Kawhi, and PG are rostered, knowing that's most likely going to mean somebody at a lower cost is our captain?
Yeah, it's going to have to be something really, really cheap down there. I mean, going to the DK showdown here, I pull this up, got it here. You've got Boban, who just isn't getting priced up the way that he would be normally during the regular season. Like 4K is still too cheap for him for the amount of minutes that we're like right now. If he were to be having 17, 18 minutes, 4K of Boban, who's a 1.25 DraftKings points per minute producer on the season, like that's going to be a spot that you're going to. Everybody below him is incurring a bunch of risk. Like Luke Kennard, we saw actually exist the last game, ended up playing 10 minutes, but do you want to play 1,200 Luke Kennard? No, you do not. Terrence Mann, Vika Zubats, a little bit cheaper than him. I mean, Boban is by far going to be, I mean, we saw him with what, 70% ownership on that last slate. It was something ridiculous there. And if you want to play all of Luka, Kawhi, Paul George, Boban can still allow you to do it. Yeah, you got to play one uncomfortable thing. You can't just play Marcus Morris and Nicholas Batum, who ended up, being the optimal lineup where you had a 270 way split of first or whatever it was on DK. It was something nifty. I think everybody won first on DK except for me for whatever reason. But generally when the optimal or a zeroed out lineup wins, it's not going to be a good thing for me. And it certainly wasn't there. But yeah, I think Boban's certainly super viable again here, and there's no way around it. Hold up. We got it cutting out again, I think. Waiting on it. All right. I think we might have just lost Aton, but looking. Oh, is he still there? Possibly.
I'm here. Hey,
there we go.
I don't understand what's going on here, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
Boy, this is rough.
It happens.
Nah, I can see. Look, you don't understand. Okay, trust me. I have been as far as working across a thick glass screen with a producer and radio for so long that I can see emotion, and I don't mean just on a face. Like I can see the frustration emanating from Jordan's face right now every time I freeze. So trust me, I don't feel good about this. I appreciate your support, but no, I don't know what the hell's going on here. It is a one-time thing. I'll be back in the studio tomorrow, but geez.
Left foot, left stomp. Right foot,
my
left
whole
stomp.
thing was
freeze. Everybody clap your hands.
I love it.
Just like that.
I was just asking if you faded Boban. That was the whole thing I was trying to get through. Jeez.
No, I did not end up. I did not end up fading Boban. I was on the show with Greg, and he talked me into making sure that I did not do such stupid things. But still didn't have the optimal lineup for the $18. So still, or the $20 it was that day. So still lost money. Hello. Oh no! Now we got him frozen again. If I could put time in a bottle, first thing that I'd like to do is sing about NHA into eternity. Goes, passes away to spend them with you. Oh no. This is just fantastic.
I'm here.
There he is again. Sorry, it was time in a bottle we had to go Jim Croce that time around. Uh-oh. And we're back, maybe. This is honestly, if you stuck around, we are having a phenomenal time. We are having a phenomenal time hitting it up. Oh, we have a Chandler. He is despondent. He is not okay right now. It is okay, my dude. This is so much fun. Eric's singing is the best. Don't lie to me. My singing is not the best. Okay.
Here's the thing. This is my problem with all of this, Eric. All right. You ready for this? Hopefully I can get this out and not freeze as I'm talking.
Okay.
But in the last hour and 11 minutes, 12 now, you have provided some pretty solid insight. All I've done is fluff you up on some stuff and then bullshit about Joel Embiid. I'm not really here providing any type of solid information. So at the very least, I should at least look good. And I don't mean my face, but just the connection, right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I mean is I can't have it's like, when you're out there, you're overweight, you're balding, you haven't brushed your teeth in 3 weeks. You don't need more shit piling on to attract the fact of all that stuff. That's all I mean.
Yeah.
And I am balding and overweight, so I can make that joke.
Oh my God. I see. Where do I possibly even go with this? Like, I think it's actually fantastic viewing to watch. One of my favorite things about watching the YouTube shows are when things go wrong, like when things and accidents happen. I think in the act, Jordan Klein shaking his head. Absolutely not for him. But for me, it's so fun to watch people react to difficult things happening because, like, for me, that's the fun part of it. Also, it's very endearing to watch you because you're so polished as a host. You do such a great job on our network. You've stepped in and immediately been like, especially like MLB. I mean, you are on it. NBA, you are on it. Like you're really polished, and you obviously have an unbelievable amount of experience. And I've really enjoyed working with you. But it's really fun to watch it when it's like, oh, I'm doing okay today. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I can say the worst things ever. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad to know that my misery causes you joy. Right?
It does I think that might be the lesson of this entire thing is that it's fun.
See,
to
here's
watch.
the thing.
Yeah.
And I'll speak for Jordan here because if he weren't producing the show and this was a show that like Tyler or Chris or somebody else, I'm sure he'd be sitting there laughing his ass off as well at me. But it's just getting through the damn show. 17 more minutes. All right. Here's what we're going to do. Okay. Everybody here, including the stream. All right. The over-under is set right now at 2.5 freezes. No, 3.5 freezes.
Okay,
in the next 16 minutes, 3.5 freezes. I'm going to go the under. All right. I'm not even going to juice up a side for you. It's minus 110, both sides. I'm going to go under. I am so confident right now because here's why. I'm not going to touch anything on my computer. I think touching shit actually makes it worse. So I'm just going to sit here and talk. I have the phone. I have everything I need in front of me, but I'm going to go under 3.5 freezes for the next 16 minutes, Eric.
I think 2.5 was the perfect line. I think we got to go back to 2.5.
Okay.
2.5. I think there's a I'll take the over on 2.5. I think 3 is like the number. So give me the over on 2.5. And then, you can take the under on your 2.5. Are you frozen right now? Or are you looking? I can't tell.
No. I'm looking.
There it was. Okay.
I'm looking.
I had to tell.
I was going to try and get you there.
Yeah. I'll just.
Right. Just like, okay. See, I have the zoom up. So you weren't frozen. That's exactly.
Exactly. God, the eyes, man. That's the hard part right there.
But that doesn't count for everybody that's out there that placed that wager. Eric freezing doesn't count. This is just Shander freezes. 2.5 Shander freezes. All right. You know what? You're going to have to give me some odds here.
That sounds like a Wawa drink if I had to guess, like for you Philly people, you Wawas, just like that'd be the name of a smoothie. The Shander freeze.
Yes. Nobody would buy it in Philly.
And a little bit of self-loathing.
Exactly right. Exactly. And
throw
anger.
It together with a booster.
Exactly right. Trust me, I don't think people would buy that simply because of the name. You add a different name maybe. But look, I'm telling you, 2.5, I'm going under, and the return is now plus 110 because the number has been dropped. You can still get it at minus 110 over 2.5, but so far, so good, right?
Yes, so far so good. We're looking good. We also got this game getting going. So Joel Embiid coming out of the gate here. What has he got? 2 points, rebound. We got Clint Capella starting pretty decent here too. Just made a bucket. Ben Simmons got a steal here. Ben Simmons 2 for 2 from the field, 4 points and a steal. Hello,
let's go.
How are you doing? Yeah, Tobias Harris just made a bucket here. I've shorted him, so that'll be really brutal. Solomon Hill's out here chucking from 3. That's great to see. Didn't make anything because he sucks. But yeah, so everybody enjoyed the Solomon Hill ride. That should be a fun one today.
Man, I'm just trying to figure out how many I got to. Wasn't many rosters at all that got to with it. But look, good sign for Ben Simmons, I think. Absolutely. And Bogey's got some points on the board. There you have it.
Let's go.
11-8. This is going to be an interesting game. I think looking at the pacing of this quarter, it may be a time to jump in. I know we're going to look a little bit extensive on this game coming up as well, but just as a quick note out there, keep an eye on the pacing here, because I think you're going to, see, I'm in Jersey, so I can't even do it, but you're going to get some pretty good value live as far as the total is concerned. Now, we mentioned Boban and trying to get to as many of the top guys as possible. I mean, really the goal here should be to get to Luka, George, Kawhi Leonard as much as humanly possible, especially knowing that you're probably not going to captain one of those three. FanDuel, I imagine, a little bit different, where you have a couple of slots as well to play with. But specifically looking at it from a DraftKings standpoint, just seemed like you'd have to go maybe even lower than Boban to be comfortable in that mode of getting those other three.
Yeah, it's Boban. There's nobody else.
Boban's your captain.
Boban is, if you're playing this optimally, I mean, we saw it out last time, where if you're going to get Kawhi and Paul, or if you're going to get Kawhi, Paul George, and Luka Doncic in the same lineup, and you basically are fading the 80 spot and the 45 spot from the other two, you just want to be playing Boban and put the other three in. I'm gonna let's build the lineup here, because this is going to be the most built lineup, I believe.
I already have it, brother.
Today, yeah. So you already.
So
you already
Boban's my captain.
Okay.
Well, I need your help, because I did the easy part. All right. Okay. I got Boban in as my captain, Luka and Kawhi and PG below. So now I have two slots, and I'm averaging about 4,700 now for the final two players. So I could go over on one of those and then just throw somebody in. I mean, I don't know if Nick Batum, Morris, Finney Smith, Reggie Jackson makes sense to pay up, knowing that you're just going to have somebody at the bottom that you're going to have to slide in. Maybe it's, Cauley Stein or Richardson, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, you could do that, or you could play Terrence Mann, who, only played 11 minutes last time out, didn't accumulate a single stat, but, had been playing 15 minutes routinely in this series up until basically no show last time out. So, yeah, he'd be at least touching the floor there. Willie Cauley-Stein, 2K, as he said, that would be just fine too. But there's an easy path, I think, going Boban, playing the three studs, and then kind of rotating around whomever else you want. I'd probably go Morris and then one of like the Mann or Cauley-Stein route if I'm doing this optimally. But let me actually see, because I don't think they changed any of the salaries. Like, I think you could go Paul George captain. That would be the more viable. If I'm trying to get different amongst the three and still maybe fit them in, you could go like Cauley-Stein, Mann, and then some other goober. You'd need Serge Ibaka to be out as well, again, just to make sure of it. Yeah, but then you play Boban down there. You can get to the 3K there for Terrence Mann, and that can kind of open some stuff up. But, Boban being in the captain makes a lot more sense. But at least they've made it more viable to kind of mix it around in the mid-range, and then also maybe just playing two of the three. I'm going to continue to be lightest on Paul George of the three. That would make some sense. But if you're looking for some way to get different, I'll pull up our ownership right now for the showdown. We can talk a bit about that. But I think Kawhi captain the most out of everything, just because he's
not Luka
different. If the ownership is kind of the same way, because it ended up having even more Luka Doncic. I was higher on him in the captain for the last time around. Again, that was fine, but it didn't work out because Boban got there enough, and you needed all three of those dudes. If you need all three, again, Boban's your path.
Anybody even below? I mean, we talked at Cauley-Stein. That's I think the lowest cost guy you got to. Is there anybody even in the 1K that you can throw out there?
So there's actually this really crazy thing that's happened more times than I'd probably want to admit, and I don't think it's viable on this slate. But going forward, something to keep in mind for Showdown is I have seen some players who played 1K guys in a flex just as a pure, like, I am going to throw him in, and if he sees the floor for like 1 point, whatever. But the whole point is just to do it from a salary perspective. I think if you do that with somebody today, Trey Burke is your guy. If you want to play somebody who is more than likely not going to see the floor. He played 9 minutes in that complete blowout. More than likely, he does not see the floor. But if he gives you access to be able to play a Luka Doncic in the captain or a Kawhi Leonard in the captain, and one of them goes for 70 plus, and the only way that it can zero out and the way the salaries work out is that one of them ends up being 1K and you land on them, I think Trey Burke is probably the one guy who could actually see the floor out of the grouping. Like, Patrick Beverley's out of the rotation completely. Josh Green, we did not see touch the floor this entire series. We haven't seen Cousins touch the floor this series. Like, it's going to be Trey Burke, the only one who has any kind of an upside to see the floor, played 9 minutes there in that blowout. I would be fine playing him as a 1K dude that gave me just a completely different salary situation. But I mean, that's a 1 out of 150 kind of a play.
Fair enough. So now that I'm looking at this here, I did run Burke and I have one less last slot. And anybody who's working this out, and just to recap, Kawhi is the captain. To go to your point, Eric, about trying to do it a little different, where the ownership was heavy on Luka more so and staying away from Paul George. So right by default, Kawhi is the captain to be a little different. Did work Boban in that lineup at 4K. Now Trey Burke at 1K. So here's the question. It leaves us with $4,600. Brunson sits at 44, Zubac at 36. So you are leaving some money on there. And then you're down to 3K for Man, where you're going to have a pretty hefty amount of cash left over. So at that point, where do you look at that final roster spot?
Wait, I just saw Dwight Powell's down there at 1K. I would rather play Dwight Powell. So don't play Trey Burke. I'm looking as I'm going through everything here. Put Dwight Powell as your 1K guy. That was
fair enough.
A miss by me as I'm going through it here.
Okay.
We'll probably start building here in the next couple hours as we get closer to that lock. But as I'm starting that, Dwight Powell actually has we saw him play 22 minutes. He only played 7 there, but he's at least seen the floor every single time out. And so I think if you want to get Powell captain is not the craziest thing I've ever heard in my entire life either. If you go Luka, if you go all 3 of those studs with Porzingis, you have 5,100. You can play, Boban in there too. I would have no problem playing them alongside each other there. You get all 3, and if you want to call Porzingis a stud, he still is, but he just hasn't been this series. You could play all 4 of those dudes with Boban, and you're ready to party. You could be going different directions to try to play a mid-range dude, and then play Powell at 1K and have him be the zeroed out one. But so yeah, make that swap as you're building that lineup, and we'll go on from there.
You like Porzingis, and it's similar money. You like Porzingis over Hardaway in this spot?
Yeah, I have to. I'm not sure.
You don't have to.
You kind of do. I mean, you leave the salary on the table. I do like leaving the salary on the table and going to Tim Hardaway Jr. I've got a hard time believing that Kristaps Porzingis is not going to at least have one game going out here during the course of this series where he plays well. I mean, game 2, he had 36.5 Draftkings points. I mean, that's more of what we were to have in line for him here in this spot. Tim Hardaway Jr. is playing massive minutes, but again, they're at the same number. Maybe you leave the salary on the table there, but Kristaps, what are their utility ownerships coming in at? We've got Porzingis 17.4%, Tim Hardaway Jr. 26.6%. I still think that if you're leaving salary on the table, that build is going to be less duplicated. So yeah, I would actually probably go Tim Hardaway Jr. if I'm building something out where it's almost zeroed out to that extent. But Porzingis and him in the same lineup, I wouldn't mind that either. It's so hard to get both of them in a lineup though, because you're playing more than likely 2 of the 3 studs. And so salary wise, it's going to be hard.
Real quick, just to update the count, I believe that the total freezes have been 0, correct?
So far, 0. Honestly, this is the underdog of the day. We have 5 minutes, so I don't want to jinx it. You're going to have to get 3 freezes to go over in the next 5 minutes. By the way, Bogdanovich just is being awesome right now on the floor. 26-18 Hawks right now. That's something.
Like I say, it's all about that first quarter, right? The same thing happened last night with the Bucks, where the Bucks get up and everybody thinks, no, James Harden, this is it. You got insane value, in-game value. The Nets were down to a half point to 1 point lay in game, down like that in the first, especially got great value for the first half. So that's where this thing is right now, just waiting to swing back, especially with them being in there. And look, just my eyes on it without paying too much attention to it, it looks fine. You don't see any major concerns with his movement, do you? Because I don't.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. He looks fine to me. He looks just fine. He's still out on the floor here. He's played the first 8 minutes of the game. I think he's trending. I think he's trending up. You had to think that they were being very cautious with him. That game 5, they should be able to beat Washington at home. with Simmons and Harris, and they took care of business and they did what they needed to, and they gave him the extra rest. And I don't know, this makes me feel really good about the over on 24 minutes for Embiid, and that's really what matters. And Trae Young is just going off right now. My God, 7 points, 5 assists, and a rebound. That is hurtful to me. Hey, where's
Thibault on this? Come on,
no,
man.
Thibault just checked into the game, and I think there's a reason for it. I'm pretty sure that is happening. They're going to start putting the clamps down here very quickly.
Look, Danny Green is just no longer Danny Green, and Seth Curry is not going to stop anybody, and that's why Thibault has so much value in real life, but it's such a difficult transfer, right, in DFS, because he has to, like, it's one thing to alter somebody's shot. It's another thing to get your hand on the ball and get credit for a steal or a block, right?
Yep, that's exactly it. Oh, my God, Trae Young just won't stop. Bucket. Seth Curry from 3. There we go. So, yeah, Thibault is such a good real-life basketball player, and it's kind of like the PJ Tucker thing. Like, I think PJ Tucker, we give him crap all the time for being such a terrible fantasy point-per-minute asset, but, like, the guy can guard 4 positions. He is great in the pick and roll. Doesn't need the ball in his hand to be an effective basketball player, and there aren't enough of those dudes that exist in the league. I mean, PJ Tucker should not have the ball in his hands, really, but defensively, he's just so good and can be an asset. Didn't really translate yesterday, but for the most part, PJ Tucker, big fan, real life, horrible fantasy asset.
Well, that's what I mean about the thing with Thibault is that, he's over 30% from 3. He's going to be out there with Embiid on the floor as well. There's going to be so much spacing. He's not a guy that you can count on to knock down 3 after 3, but I could see that becoming more and more, at least to where he can become in the conversation of a lesser 3-and-D if he can just get that shot down, because everybody's going to give it to him. You talk about lagging off Ben Simmons, they're going to lag off Thibault as well.
Yeah, he's going to be really good for Philly. I think he's a good piece to have on that team. It's hard to find minutes when you have a guy like Tobias Harris, and Danny Green can knock down open 3s, and that's kind of his existence on this team, is the ability to sit in the corner, and his only purpose of being on this Sixers team. Seth Curry can actually create his own shot. 3 for 3 to start off the game to 7 points, but yeah, as a Sixers fan, it's nice for you to be able to have some young pieces like Maxey, to have a couple of these guys. Like Tobias Harris is locked in for however many years. Joel Embiid's locked in. We'll see how that Simmons thing. I mean, Simmons is phenomenal. I think Doc Rivers has spoken very, very highly of him, and Ben Simmons can guard. You talk about Thibault, him and Ben Simmons on the perimeter. I'm very surprised. 34-22 to start off this game. 2.5 minutes left. Good Lord. I'll take the over. How does that sound? I'll take the over on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, not a good starter for your day when it comes to overs, my friend, because we've got less than a couple of minutes on the line here, and I don't anticipate freezing 3 times over. But we do have 2 super chats, if we can get to them before we get out of here, Eric. Philly Mamba, appreciate the follow, too. Luka and Brunson or PG and Jackson, FD Cash?
So FD Cash? Oh, baby. All right, that's a specific one. I want to give you the time that you have earned for hanging out with us, chatting NHA, chatting a bunch of the showdown stuff. Let me take a look for the Fanduel slate. Fanduel Cash, oh my. That you got to want that one here. You got to want that today. Let's go. I mean, you got to play Luka. You can't not play Luka. I can see paths where you don't play Paul George. But you got to play Luka, I think, in any kind of a cash setting. I would find a way to go Luka, Kawhi, and the rest of my lineup. And I think we saw the pro slot with Reggie Jackson work out well last game. I think that there's some viability to that again. But yeah, I would not play Luka Doncic in cash on FanDuel.
All right, last one. Who for captain MVP for Clippers versus Dallas for DK and FD? Now, look, we talked about this is Malcolm Revamp on the super chats. Just kind of wind down. We did mention Boban and a couple of cheap options there. But if you were looking at one of the big 3, how would you look at that kind of rank as well, outside of maybe going somewhere super cheap to roster everybody in?
Yeah, FanDuel goes 1, 2, 3, Luka, Kawhi, Paul George. On DraftKings, because of salary, it's a thing. We're seeing Luka still get the most ownership there. I'm happy to side with Kawhi today. I think in a game 7 here, I think getting to Kawhi, having a little bit of salary savings, it matters a little bit more. Now the Boban's up to 4K. I don't think it matters as much as maybe you would. Like, I was hoping he was going to be like 5-6K. We've seen those DK salaries get boosted very, very quickly when guys started playing meaningful minutes. I guess he's still playing less than 20 minutes, so that's why he exists there. Let's see if there's like another guy. He's saying just who captain MVP. Let's go for captain. If we're going to go the different route of somebody that nobody else is going to play, give me DFS, who played 42 minutes, puts up a number of different stats, went 11, 7, and 4, 29.75. He's been playing really well the last 2. He's going to play 40 plus minutes again tonight here. A lot of these guys in the mid-range are him. You got to assume that Marcus Morris is as well. But because of DFS being a little bit more expensive than Marcus Morris, give me DFS for much lower ownership.
Awesome, brother. We got through it. And not only in the final 30, although technically it was like 26 minutes for me. You were here for the full 30. We appreciate everybody else. Look, leave us a like. You really want to make sure you subscribe to the channel and you're not missing anything with the notification bell. Awesemo Plus, it's $29.95 a week. It's so simple. It's so easy. You don't need to wait once a week for free tools or premium tools to be available for you for free. You can just jump on and have everything across the site. So, Eric, my man, thank you as always. I am wishing you better luck than the start for my Sixers, but I'm sure you're going to get it with the Clippers just because my money's there. To the most patient human being over the last 90 minutes, that would be Jordan producing the show. Thank you, sir. And to everybody else out there, we appreciate you hanging with us. Good luck, everybody, and good night. Or good afternoon.
Doesn't even matter. Time's a construct.
No. Absolutely.